check here. There we go. All right, we good. All right. That's muted. We good there. Let me just do some editing here, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right. So hang tight while we get some people up in the room. Hold on. Do a couple quick edits. Hang tight. There we go. All right, just give me a minute. Just give a minute or two for some people to come in. I'm just gonna do some quick edits. Sorry about that background interference. All right, be a minute here. Let's do this. Hang tight. All right. I want that. All right, here we go. Okay. All right. Jeez. All right, I think we're good on that. I think that's it. All right. Just give it a quick second. And we're going to get started. All right. Oh, forgot to hook up some Mizite microphone, and then we good. Let's put this over here so it's out of the way. All right, I think we are good. Brother Louis Angel, what's going on, brother? Good to see you, man. I got to get with you. I need you to help me out on that next class on the Patreon. I'll reach out to you, though. All right. All right, let me run through some quick announcements. We'll give another minute or two. Yeah, been a few weeks, a little bit since I had time to do a live. As you know, I've been posting a lot of, the 20, 30-minute videos. I try to just add that content when I can. So I post a lot of that. I've been posting it on the podcast. Um, so yeah. So we're here to live talk about a few things today. But before I get into that, um, again, a couple quick announcements. If you are interested in a spiritual read or a consultation, yes, the yearly forecast readings are done until November. I know a couple people, pretty much you guys have pretty much got the message. Few people are still reaching out. No, those will pick back up in November, towards the end of the year. We do them November to like early February. But anyway, there's plenty other readings that you can do if you're interested in a spiritual reading, Klapothic demonic reading, a Santa Muerte reading, a shadow work reading, a deity reading, an Egyptian oracle reading, or maybe you're just interested in a spiritual consultation and you just want to focus on a particular area of the occult. Or, like I said, a lot of people use consultations. Basically, sometimes they have just a gang of questions and they use it as an hour session just to talk and discuss about whatever questions they may have. You can use it for any of those things. Okay. So any of the aforementioned, everything I'm saying is going on the ticker on the bottom of the screen. Everything is in the description box of the video. You can see everything in there that I'm going to run through real quick. You can reach out to me at the email address you see there, canoom19@gmail.com. And again, please include a full weekly thorough availability, not just one day, not just I'm available Wednesday at 3:00. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. I wish it did, but it doesn't. And then the time zone you're in, very important. Because as I've told you guys many times before, I deal with people in time zones, not just in the United States, but overseas, Africa, Europe, you name it. So the time zone is very important. And not only that, the main thing is it saves the back and forth email. That's the main thing. Because if you really know you want a reading, you inquire, I send you what kind of readings I do. Let's just get to it. It's just, if you don't include that information, then my response is what time zone you're in. When are you available? So make sure that's in the initial email and it saves the back and forth. Also, if you want to sign up for classes, again, you see it going on the ticker on the bottom. The Patreon page is growing tremendously. If you guys want to sign up for classes, that's the way to get in on the classes that I do. I do them on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti. That's right there on the bottom of the screen. I do 3 private classes on Patreon every month for Patreon members only, and group rituals that we all do at the end of the month together. And also keep in mind, when you join the Patreon page, you don't just get access from the day you join moving forward. You get access to everything in the archives going 4+ years back. If you want to see what type of classes I do on the Patreon, there are a bunch of continual ongoing series where new content is added all the time. You can go check out the page just to see. Go to the collection section. It'll show you all the classes. They're all labeled and they all are in numerical order. And again, how the classes work. When you join, all classes are by a private Zoom invite only. And you can attend live, which you can interact with me and everybody else in the room. And as I've said many times before, I go in much more detailed, in depth, and talk about things there that I wouldn't really talk about here openly. And if you can't make it live, don't worry, because I understand everybody's got different schedules. And then plus we're trying to accommodate people in multiple time zones, which is literally impossible. So those who can get there to the lives. It's always a better experience live. But don't worry if you can't. Everything's archived and recorded, and you can take these classes also in accordance with your schedule. All right. Also, don't forget to check us out on Instagram, which we're live on Instagram right now, Primordial Chaos 9. Check us out on Facebook, Primordial Chaos, 2 words on Facebook. We are also live on Facebook right now. Also, check us out on TikTok. TikTok page is up and running, 2 words, Primordial Chaos, and we're live here on YouTube. So those platforms is where I post all the, whatever we got going on, classes, updates, events, this, that, the other. Everything's posted on there. If you've been reaching out, the emails is psychotic right now. That's just, if I haven't responded to you right away and it's taken a day or two, just be patient. In addition, I'm getting ready to hit the road. The month of April, I am going to be on the road a lot. I will be in Providence, Rhode Island twice, Chicago. I'll be going to Wisconsin at the end of May. It's just going to be very busy this spring and summer with a lot of things I got going on. So just be patient. I'm getting everybody as quick as I can. Stuff is growing. I might have to get what they call that, like an office assistant. It's getting to that point. I used to be able to handle all this shit myself, but it's getting a little crazy. But anyway, reach out. I'll get back to you as quick as I can. So check those platforms out. That's where you stay abreast of everything we got going on. Also, don't forget to check out the Primordial Chaos podcast, which is available on Spotify, all major podcast platforms. A lot of people give me good feedback on that. They like the fact that they can just get some of these videos now in MP3 format, where you can just listen to it in your headphones and hanging out, exercising, driving, walking, whatever. So the podcast is good because you can get audio files of a lot of the classes that I do here on YouTube. All right. Also, mark your calendars. October 2024, 7th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference here in Hollywood, Florida. So almost that time again. We're in March, approaching the summer, spring, summer, and we're already talking about the conference. Felt like we just had the conference. It's crazy. It'll come quicker than you know. I will have an exact date. It's definitely the 3rd or the 4th week in October, 100%. I have to wait till roughly June till I get my son's travel schedule. So I can't set a date. I have to make sure I'm here that weekend. So as soon as I have a date, but I can tell you, you can definitely plan for that 3rd or 4th week in the month of October for sure. More to come on that as we get later into the year. Okay. All right. I think that covers all the announcements. If you need to contact me on any of that, it's on the ticker there on the bottom of the screen. It's also in the description box of the video you're watching right now, in case you forget. That's why I put it there. That's why I run it on the ticker, so you don't have to email me about something usually that's in that bottom of that box. All right, so infernal blessings to everybody. I want to greet everybody that is here at the current moment. Infernal blessings to everybody that is not here. Hope I'm not butchering your name. Hot Headlius. What's up, man? Appreciate you coming by. Glad you're able to catch it. Ruben C, what's going on? Mia, good to see you here. Ruben C, what are your thoughts on Ryan Garcia exploding pet? Yeah, I'll run through. I see guys had a couple comments and questions here. I'll try to run through a couple of these quick and then get into it. Look, there's always, first of all, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm totally against that shit. This is something that's been going on, obviously, for many years. Okay. Whether it's the entertainment industry, whether it's politicians, whether it's influential people in the world, and this situation in the Bohemian Grove, there's always a risk when you put yourself out there, because a lot of these whack jobs and these prominent people of high power who actually condone and promote pedophilia, he's obviously putting himself out there on a limb. So look, whether it's that or any other situation, I look, one of my biggest detestable things in this world is any grown ass adult that innocently sexually abuses or harms children. Personally, to me, should be castrated and shot. That's my opinion. So I'm all for people getting exposed that are doing that. They should be. But the reality is, the type of world that we live in, the power structure that we're up against, the establishment, you're dealing with things you can't see and see. Okay. And I'm talking on both levels, physically and spiritually. So all I would say is he's going to have to be careful, because he's a mark now. He's a target. But I think if he does have something that he's bringing forward that's credible, we'll expose these motherfuckers. That's just how I feel about it. And if he's bent on doing that and he knows the risk that comes with it, with what he's doing, then so be it, right? Somebody got to do it, right? I've had, in the past, in I have mentioned to you guys in the past over the years, back in the day when we had spiritual gatherings in Ifa, we used to have misas and igun ceremonies, and we'd bring the spirits down, and my godmother at that time would be able to bring spirits down and or pull spirits out of us. I remember when I would go into full possession, some of the stories I would sniff out people in that room that were pedophiles, and I would reveal them. And that's why it's been a passion with me going back to the late 90s, early 2000s. And there's a spirit that I walk with that is totally against that shit. Never knew why it used to get me angry. Not just the fact that we have kids, right? It's even more personal to people who have kids, right? So it takes on a special, even more, but it's not just for that reason. I'd feel the same way, honestly, if I didn't have any kids or never raised any kids. Okay, so yeah, not to be too long winded, but that's the deal with that. All right, what else we got? I've been Ruben C says, I've been hearing from other occultists that there might be a power grid issue after the solar eclipse. Now, there's a couple of things going on. It's funny you bring that up. There was an article just yesterday or the day before, okay, in I think it was the Washington Post or the New York Times. It's definitely one of them two, because I get apps and notifications. I don't really watch TV, so any news, current events, I usually stay up on it on my tablet. And the Washington Post and the New York Times, I have those apps. I have the Washington Post, the New York Post and the New York Times, because that's really where you get all the bullshit, right? And if you really want to see the games they're running. So I try to stay up on those apps when I can. But they are talking about not just the solar eclipse possibly having a grid issue. They're saying right now, and this article blew me away, they're saying right now, our grid is struggling to handle the amount of power that we're trying to run it with. Part of it is all these electric cars, okay? See, the one thing that they're not telling you is, yeah, these electric cars, they're trying to get everybody to switch over them. This is why the economy went to shit under old Blinkenton here, Biden. And this is why you had that little gas scare when the Ukraine-Russia war, because they're trying to persuade people to get electric cars. Now, the problem with that is, there's a couple problems with that. As you know, on average, like say a Tesla, a full charge gets you about 200 and something miles. It depends on the car. It's a few hundred miles. That poses a problem for people who drive long distances, number one. And then the constant charging, the amount of electricity it takes to charge an electric car. So now what they're not telling you is, since the last several years, they've been persuading people to switch over to electric cars. They're not telling you the strain it's putting on the grid. That's one of the many reasons, right? The solar eclipse too, yes, they're saying that coupled with what I just said could put a serious strain on the grid. They know this shit, but they'll just keep doing what they're doing because they have their agenda. So yeah, there's stuff out there buzzing in regards to that we need to be aware of. But as I've told you guys before, I gave you guys a website. Damn, I can't even think of the website. You should have preparations as if it was a natural disaster coming, right? I have food, like a 20, 25-year supply of food, dry goods. And well, I'm not going to tell you everything I have because I don't know who the fuck is watching. But anyway, be prepared, okay? So all you can do in a situation like that is be prepared. Don't waste too much time getting caught up in what everybody's saying. When you gather your data, you do what you need to do to take care of yourself, your family, and those close to you, and work with those who are in alignment to what you're doing. That's all you can do. Don't get caught up, and I'm not saying you are. There's a lot of chatter going on out there around there about that. Be careful, because some of it is conspiracy theory and sensationalism, because part of it is to instill fear, because sometimes they keep pumping that shit out there and nothing happens, or nothing to the extreme of how they said happens. But that doesn't mean you don't be prepared. We should always be prepared for something like that. You understand? So yes, that is out there. There's a lot of buzz about that. They're not telling us the truth, the strain and the drain that these electric cars are putting on our grid. And from what I heard, even I was talking with Raven the other day, and even in the research and reading, she came across something that it says to charge one of them is like 5 times the amount of electricity it takes to power a house. Just to do it's an insane amount of electricity. So you think, just use common sense. Just think, as the amount of these vehicles increase and the amount of people that need to tap into electric. So one thing they're saying, oh, it's great, we're saving the environment, right? We're using less gas. Well, there's a lot of downside to that. There's ways to use clean fuels. You know, the whole thing back there with fossil fuels, natural fuels, clean gas. You shut all that down, you're also shutting down a lot of jobs because there's going to be a lot of people you ain't going to need no more that work in that field. That's number one. Number two, you might be improving the environment, not to the extent they think they are, but they're not telling you the other aspect of it, the strain that they're putting on the grid. That's real. Okay. So, yes, we need to keep our eye on this and be prepared. All right. Shama Fear, stop. You're spoiling me, but I appreciate it. Shabafia says, Inferno, salutations to the best, most excellent teacher of all youth. Greetings, awesome gods and training. Appreciate that. Thank you. Glad you're here to make the live. Oh no, Ruben, I'm in Chicago. My son's playing in a tournament. He is on a lot of the traveling I'm going to be doing is for his. He's on an elite spring travel team, so I will be in Chicago the last weekend of April. I'll be there for 4 days. That last weekend, I'll be flying in that Thursday and leaving out that Monday. But I can tell you this: if there's some time in between, if you know some people to get a meetup, let me know. I'd be more than happy to maybe a quick get together somewhere in the Chicago area. If you have a couple people that want to get together, I'm always open to stuff like that. So let me know. Young Finest. I'm telling you, boy, that's a rap name if I ever heard one. I'm just joking. That's just like you can use that name for so many things, man. Young Finest. Yeah, Mia, don't touch the children. I don't fuck around with that. Okay. I don't fuck around with that. It's look, man. There's a lot of things in life that are enigmas, and some of the things people use to justify shit. Look, I get on the left-hand path. It's about perception, but also on the left-hand path in the occult, we have to stand firm on our own personal principles. So I'm speaking that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in agreement with that. I've heard people from the sickest use things historically in the past. And this is why, for an example, when you take a religion like Islam, religions promote it subconsciously, okay? Because you have hadiths where the Prophet Muhammad took Aisha when she was a little girl, a few years old, and they condone this type of shit. You have cultures that turn children over at a very small age to grown. I just don't understand. Even if you're a woman, let's not just say it's the men now, right? Let's because there's women who are pedophilia too. I know it is predominantly more men, so let's call it for what it is. But let's not act like there's not women pedophiliacs out there because there is. Okay, I just don't understand how a grown adult, a grown, mature, well-developed adult can look at a small child and have a sexual attraction to him. To me, that's a psychological disorder. I don't know if that can ever be fixed. Yes, there's therapy. Yes, you can go to counseling. I mean, I have my other theories on what creates that. Is it a gene? Is it something more scientifical? It's debatable. I don't want to turn this into that. I don't want to turn this session into that. But I can't fathom how a grown ass adult can look at us. That's a sickness that needs to be addressed. Okay. But speaking of hierarchy and position of powers, all these wealthy, rich people in political powers and who control finances and the wealth of the world, they're into that sick shit. Okay, that shit been going on for years. Look now, and even look in the entertainment industry, who is not getting exposed for this shit now? And look at what's his name, Puff Dingbat, Puff Doodoo, Puff Diddy, whatever the fuck he calls himself now. He needs to be exposed. This is nothing new. Go back to I was telling people, if you really want the lowdown on the music game, especially the hip hop world and all the pedophilia and homosexuality illegally that goes on, go get Black Dot's book. He put out a book in the early 2000s called what the hell is it called? Hip Hop Decoded. Okay. All the stuff that's coming out about Diddy, he had in that book in the early 2000s. Everybody knew this, right? They keep it hush hush. No, you know who nobody's talking about? And he just disappeared, faded into black, and left the country. Where's Russell Simmons? Russell Simmons won't step foot back in this country because he knows it's over. Okay? He got exposed, which that was disappointing to me because That's my hometown there. They grew up minutes away from where I grew up. I looked up to, well, Run DMC, I ain't got a problem, but I looked up to Russell. They were like pioneers. They were like childhood idols to me. Russell was, but now that shit, lose all respect for you. All that shit goes out the window. All of them. Kevin Spacey disappeared. Right? All these actors, entertainers, rappers, musicians, they're all being exposed. Okay? It's all coming to the surface. Okay? So this starts with the very wealthy elite, politicians, secret societies, entertainers, rap. It just seems that whole world, which I know this is not news. Those that know, this is something that's been talked about for years. This ain't no new breaking news. It's just they're getting caught now. You understand? But I think old Puff Punk Daddy, whatever he calls himself now, I think his luck is running out. There's only so much your money's going to be able to hush people up. The latest that I just heard a few days ago, now Aaron Hall. Now what? Now they're going after all the old school R&B dudes. So apparently him and Aaron Hall now have allegations against them for rape against women, forcefully raping women. This shit is crazy. It's crazy, but this is, remember, if you guys were in the end of the year class, and I started to tell you last year, Barzili Dantorum, the spirits made it clear to us, this is the year where people get exposed more than ever. You thought people got exposed the last few years, and it's been getting bad the last few years. People who are doing shit like that, wrong to children, all this crazy shit, this look, I told you it was the year of the dispersion of the raven. Go into the clip out the Gaglio, understand that, and that's part of what I'm going to get into. It has a little bit of connection to what I'm, hopefully at some point I get into. But yeah, this shit is, it's about to go up a notch. All right. Yeah, don't touch the children. Yeah, Young Finest, that's been out there. And I think they're running tests to possibly, I think the first was a test run, right? They wanted to see how people would react. And I told you all that keeping 6 feet, wearing a mask wasn't because they were worried about anything contagious. I told you, they got radar. They use technology that runs on satellite and radar, like if you're in the military. And this is how they track the soldiers when they're in combat or they deployed and they need to keep tabs up. It's almost like a form of a GPS, okay? And what happens is, though, they were testing certain technology because if you get too close to each other, you can't get a read off of the body or the imaging. So they wanted to see if they could detect us on radar with our faces covered and if they could detect us being an X amount of feet apart. That's why they were so 6 feet apart. Wear a mask. They were testing technology. I don't want to get into it. You got to be careful now because it's trigger words on YouTube. They'll shut you down. I told you they shut down one of my videos because I was talking about herbal supplements. And they said it was against guidelines because I wasn't getting medical advice. I always make a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. So I don't really want to get into too much of that because they've shut people's videos down for that, saying you're giving misinformation. So there's trigger words, right? So I don't really talk about stuff like that too much. And you got to be careful because they'll do stuff like that. But I do believe, yes, that is a possibility. Again, like I was saying earlier with the grid, we have to be prepared. Okay. We need to be prepared. Doesn't stop the work we need to do. I can tell you this, if you're locked into your spiritual work, if you're consistent on your spiritual path, you'll navigate through it. Okay, trust me. Those that need to worry that are those that are just caught up in the world, they ain't got a clue what's going on. Just out there in the world, lost, doing whatever the fuck it is they're doing. Right? Them are the ones. So we need to worry about protecting ourselves, protecting those around us that we are in our immediate environment surrounding, and working with those who are in accordance. Okay. So, but yeah, we always need to be prepared. All right. Yeah, Urban X too, Ultra Instinct. That's another good book by Black Dot. I like Black Dot. Right? I just like, I believe certain people have gifts, and when he gets into the occult aspect and spirituality of hip hop, to me, he's one of the best. I would definitely encourage people to read his books if you haven't. I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with him. But that hip hop decoded, that was a game changer. And I believe he put himself out there as a mark. I mean, this stuff I heard, you got to be careful because when you're speaking the truth all of us, including myself, when we're speaking the truth, you put yourself out there, right? But when you have confidence that you walk with the spirits and you have confidence in what you're doing, you don't tend to really worry about that in a sense. Not saying that nobody's untouchable, nobody's nobody is infallible, right? But you don't stress or worry with that because you have a certain confidence. You do what you need to do. But anybody's, it could be me, it could be Black Dot, it could be anybody that speaks the truth. Ryan Garcia, anybody, right? You put yourself at risk because there's people out there that don't want people to know certain things. And that's been the name of the game since day one. If I can keep knowledge from you, right, that gives me power. And when I say the powers that be, the establishment, whether that's the political system, the religious system, the educational system, they feed and filter you what they want you to know. Especially with religion, they don't even believe the shit that they feed the masses, but it's done to control the masses and keep people under wraps. Okay, we all know this. A lot of the bullshit goes on in the conscious woke and occult and left hand path community too. You got a lot of people that run game within these platforms and community. They want to act like they got shit that nobody got. I give you guys the sources when I'm in. Hey, I got book. I'm going to give you the source, the author, for you to go. But people want to come across shit and pretend like it's some shit that they came up with, and it's not. But it's this constant hustle. See, I told you guys years back. The name of the game is if I can create the illusion that I know something you don't, that keeps you in a certain mindset, in a certain mode of control. I can control you. It's always like these groups and organizations over the years that claim to have these great secrets, or these people that come on these platforms like pretending they know some great secret. The reality is, the truth is, there is no secret at all. Anything you uncover, and I use the word uncover for a reason, or appears to be new to you, it's just you forgot, and at that moment you remembered. There's nothing new above and beyond the sun. I'm not teaching anything new. Nobody else out there is teaching anything new. I don't care who it is. You're Billy Carson's, you're this, you're the whoever it is. Everybody gets so fascinated sometimes with what Billy Carson. That shit's been out there for years. Stuff on the Anunnaki and this and that. All they keep doing is recycling the same old shit and putting a little twist on it. That's all. It's just it appears new to people, and they go, wow, that's deep. Remember, mummy, you've been asleep for many years. You know all this. It's programmed and encoded in your DNA. It's just you went to sleep. You forgot. So when you come to a moment like that where you hear something, you go, wow, that's deep. It's just you got awakened again. It's not new, because nobody in my whole amount of time, and I don't care who it's been, when I look back and reflect now, all these great teachers were just reminding us of what's already been here. Okay, so we can't get mesmerized and go, oh wow, that's heavy, that's deep. I just find what a lot of people are doing is just recycling the same shit and just putting their little twist and interpretation on it. Okay, I'm going to give you sources, I'm going to give you stuff, and then what I do is I tell you to take it and utilize it for yourself how you see fit. I can only give you my breakdown on it because that's how I'm receptive and receiving it. But that doesn't mean everybody else is going to receive it the same way. I don't expect everybody else to. That's ridiculous to believe that, right? As I told you before, my goal from day one of having this channel and my platforms is just to put information out there, not to recruit you guys to see things the way I see it, look at magic and spirituality the way I know. That's not the goal here. Okay? So, yeah, I mean, a lot of shit going on, man. Yeah, 2024 is the year of exposure. You're going to see some crazy, and your hearts might get broken because it might be some people you looked up to. It might be some entertainers, actors, or figures that were influential in your life. I mean, there's no stone unturned. I mean, they're just going after everybody. And everybody that is it. Look, I'm gonna say this. Look, you got to look at things. This conversation came up. I forgot who I was talking about this not too long, just a couple days ago. I think it was Keona. We were talking, right? And the topic of Michael Jackson, Prince, and R. Kelly came up, right? You got to also look how they play games, though. Now, look, let me say this. This is just my thoughts and opinion. All right, let's start with R. Kelly for an example. There's a lot of evidence there to suggest he did that foul shit. So if he did do that, and I'm not saying he did all of it. He did a lot of it from what, in my opinion, from what I saw. Obviously, we can't confirm 100% of it. There's a lot of shady shit there. Them tapes being exposed. They were in a vault. His bodyguard. I mean, there's a lot of shady shit. But I'm going to tell you what the real deal is that they're not telling you. Okay? And it transitions into Prince and Michael Jackson that they won't tell you really that. Or have you guys might know, but you might hear it and go, I didn't look at it like that. But let me tell you the real deal here. Okay? So the whole R. Kelly thing, right? Just like and let's put Bill Cosby in this equation. I do believe Bill Cosby and R. Kelly did a lot of that shit. I don't believe they did all that shit they're accused of. First of all, the Bill Cosby thing is fishy as hell because they had that very thin, she was kind of a manly looking white woman, who claims she went back 3 and 4 times. See, that right there raises a red flag. If you knew you went to somebody's house who drugged you and then raped you and you went back 4 or 5 times, and then everybody was coming forward for a book deal to make some money. And I do believe Bill had him a taste for some very weird looking white women. It's just Bill's fetish. I don't know what it is. I mean, I looked up to Bill as a TV dad, a little disappointed. I do believe he did do some of that stuff, but I do believe a lot of it that came after was people just trying to come forward and make money, which happens, right? But what you have to factor in with Bill Cosby, as we all know, a lot of it also had to do with he was getting ready to buy a whole TV station. He was going to have his whole media outlet. His son was getting ready to run it. That was too much power. And I'm not using it as a conspiracy theory and say, oh, he didn't do any of it. That's why they got him. But that had something to do with it. 100%. Don't let nobody fool you. His son was getting ready to run it. I forgot what it was. And it was a big, major. You guys can look it up. You can find out. So it's always money and power at the root of a lot of this shit. And then when they can find something on somebody like this, that's what they'll use to take them down. So Bill had him a taste for some weird looking white women. They used that. That was the angle. Let's get him. Now he can't buy the TV station. He can't have all that media power, this, that, and the other. That's Bill. Let's go to R. Kelly real quick. And R. Kelly, Prince, and Michael Jackson all had something in common of why what happened to them. Okay? So like I said, there's the same thing with R. Kelly. I believe he did a lot of that shit. A lot of the stuff that was compounded afterwards, I do believe a lot of that was bullshit. And then there was people coming for the bag, looking for book deals and interviews and money. And just some of the shit didn't add up. Okay? But whatever he did, if he deserves to be in jail if he did. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'd be lying to you said if every now and then when I'm in urge, I play R. Kelly's music. Some people, learn to separate the message from the messenger, right? People can say that, oh, that's stuff. No, doesn't negate the fact he was a talented artist. Doesn't negate the fact. I know some of you motherfuckers are still playing it, so don't play the games. But here's the reality. Like Michael Jackson and Prince, R. Kelly was in the process of getting all his masters back. And if you guys don't know how look at the Beatles, look at catalogs of Elvis, all these quote unquote so-called iconic artists. Do you know your children's children can live off ownership of a catalog like that? Well, when all this was going down, R. Kelly was in this process. Now, I don't know if he did obtain it. To my knowledge, he didn't. But he was very close to obtaining his masters. And that, you talking about generational wealth there. And they're not going to let you have that shit. This is why a lot of these artists, they sign the labels. They get entertainment deals. They get money up front. They get X amount of guaranteed, but they don't get ownership of their material, majority of them. A lot of them are wisening up now. And then obviously the internet, social media has changed the game. You have a lot of people doing this shit independently now. But big record execs, if you know how that shit works, there's a lot of politics and a lot of bullshit involved in that. So he was getting ready to become seriously wealthy. And then all of a sudden, they had that angle to swoop in and get him. Now, Prince, same thing. I don't believe Prince and Michael Jackson. I believe they were killed. That's just me. I'm not buying the shit. The way they said they died, bullshit.
I believe they were intentionally killed. I don't care if somebody intentionally overdosed. That Michael Jackson's doctor intentionally killed him. You can't tell me no otherwise. He was definitely an implant. And I'm going to say this on the record. You don't have to agree with me. I don't believe Michael Jackson touched not damn near one of them kids. Okay. I do believe Michael Jackson had a problem because he thought he was a small child because of the trauma he went through being raised. We know the history of with his father, right? With Joe Jackson. I do believe he needed help. But first of all, how come nobody's screaming? Those parents, who in their right mind, what grown ass adult would let a small child sleep over a grown man's house? I'm not saying them kids didn't sleep in Mike's bed because Mike was he had a mental problem. He was a child. Okay, but there was no evidence. The evidence was super suspect. Okay. Now you can have a difference of opinion. I'm just saying, but it came to me clear, even spiritually in my meditation and focus on. But that doesn't mean anything. That's personal for me. He didn't touch any of them kids. I don't care what they say. We don't get caught up in how weird Mike was and how he got in the later stages of his life after he did all the plastic surgery, bleached his skin, thinned his nose and his lips, and went crazy. Yes, he needed help. Don't get me wrong. There was some psychological, mental stuff going on up there. But the same thing with him. He owned the masters. And I believe his family sold him, if I'm not, I could be mistaken. But you can go look that up. Same thing with Prince. Just very suspect and fishy. You talking about generational iconic artists. You when you take a Prince and a Michael Jackson, that's on the level of an Elvis Presley and the Beatles. Remember, I think to this day, I don't think anything's overtaken. I believe Thriller is or was one of the top 7 selling albums of all time ever. Still to this day is selling. Okay, I know the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack was right up there. Now that could have changed over time, but I know that was what it was for a while. All right, but I'm telling you, Mike didn't touch any of them kids. Don't let them fool you. They killed him. Same thing with Prince. They killed him too. I don't care what anybody says. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You got to really go through some of the other evidence that's out there to really understand. All right, but that's what happens. So when stuff goes down, you gotta look at the big picture. Pizzagate, yeah. All right, I need to get into some of this, or I'm gonna have to change the title of this video. I ain't gonna get into any of this. Let me start on some of this because I'm totally shifting away from the title. I want to just I ain't gonna get too long with it. There's a book I had brought up a few years back. I've used it on and off. I've even tried to reach out to this author, but it appears they've gone ghost. The website is not official no more. This is the book, Wrathful Chaos. There are some, you can't get it on Amazon or anywhere like that. There is PDF formats of it. You can get it in full PDF form. It's not available on Scrib. I think somebody saw it on Etsy. If there's somebody in here that remembers that, I know there was somebody on the Patreon that put the link because some of the people on the Patreon were looking for a copy of it. And there, I think A Books and some of them rare book companies have. The last time I checked, that could be done. There's a few copies floating around, hard copies. So you're gonna have to do your search if any is still available. You're probably gonna have a better chance to find it in PDF. Now, when you go on Scribe, you'll see it's not the whole thing. You'll Google it, it'll come up, but it's only about 40 or 50 pages of the book. So whatever you pull up on, just so because I know other people too got kind of ganked into thinking buying a PDF and it wasn't the whole thing. It should be just over 300 pages if you get a PDF of it. So make sure you're not getting clickbait because some people came back to me about a year or so ago. They went on places like Etsy and other sites, I think eBay, and it wasn't the full PDF. It looked like somebody pulled the PDF that was on Scribd and was selling it. So just be careful. But you can obtain a full PDF of it. I do know that. The author's name is Arioch, Arioch. Again, he's got a website on the back. He's got a picture of lionofsatan.com, but it's non-functioning. I've even tried to reach out to this author. There's an email in the back of the book. I actually wanted to speak with him, possibly see if I could get him on a possible show, but I had no luck. It's a very interesting work. It's very dark, not in a bad way. It's going to really test dealing with the dark side of your subconscious mind. There's two things in here, though, that I stumbled across, and I've gone in and out of this book over the years, so something I wanted to kind of run through. The Black Sabbath and the Black Earth is a term. He has two sections in here on page, for your reference, if you want to look it up. If you do have the book or you get the book, page 252 and 253. It's just a short little excerpt I want to focus on here. And it's kind of crazy because it's tying into a lot of the things we're talking about. As I said, this being the year of the dispersion of the raven, right? This being the year of a lot of things being exposed, right? Everything's going to come to the surface, and it's gonna start escalating like we were just talking about. We'll get back to the chat in a little bit. Now, you always hear me talking about a high time of the year for a Luciferian practitioner. One of our greatest Sabbaths, or high time to do ritual work, and it's for those on the Patreon who do their Luciferian self-initiation right. It's December 24th, going into the 25th. And I stumbled across this, and he talks about that in his book as the Black Sabbath. And what's the coincidence? I just was rumbling through my books earlier today, and I said, damn, I knew it was somewhere. I just couldn't remember what book, and here it is. So I want to run through this. The Black Sabbath, on December 24th, the black sun conjuncts with the white sun, meaning the physical sun temporarily eclipses the sinister sun. This event symbolizes the demiurgic drive to exist separately. That's what Luciferian spirituality is about. Apotheosis, right? You are the center. You are the God, the deity. He addresses that too in here. You are the God, the deity, and everything evolves around you. I told you to understand on the occult and left-hand path. And when we talk about this being a path of isolation, in order to understand the connectedness, you have to separate from it. And people get confused when they say that. Say, what does that mean? That sounds like a contradiction. That don't make sense. You got to pay attention. Don't react. You have to be proactive, analyze. It is true when we talk about the collective all, the collective consciousness, how all things are connected, but don't you have your own thoughts? Right? If you've read the Emerald Tablets of Tahuti, for all you guys that are in the mentorship program, that's one of the first things I take you through, right? That's your first lesson that we run through in the program. So if everything is part of the conscious all and collective, which it is, how do we break down the fact, if I have my thoughts, you have your thoughts, how can we all be of the one same mind? Okay? We are, but how do we have these individual thoughts? Because there's still an individual I within that collective all. They don't want you to focus on that, because if you understand, though you're part of that collective all, but the unique you or I is what makes you you, that's when you become an intelligent thinker. That's when you have your own thoughts, your own perspective, your own opinions. That doesn't negate the principle that you're outside of that collective all. It just means you've awakened the black flame of consciousness within. That's what Luciferian spirituality is about. Recognizing the uniqueness of you to that connectedness. They don't want you to do that, because then you start thinking with a god or a goddess mindset. You understand your connection to that, but you're not going to give up your individual uniqueness, and you shouldn't, because that's what makes you you. So if you're intertwined in that, how can you see the connectedness to it if you don't understand the individual isolated consciousness or aspect of you? It can be a little confusing to those that don't understand, but it's really not. It's just got to really understand it. So this is a powerful day, because remember, a lot of the spiritual work we do with Luciferian spirituality, it's a strong connection to the micro and the macrocosm. There's a strong connection to cycles, seasons, equinoxes, planetary movements, astrological energy, right? Not in a religious fanatical way. See, we tap into a lot of the power that people say, oh, don't do any ritual work when the moon is waxing in Jupiter. Fuck that. That's the greatest time to do work. That's chaos. Oh, retrograde Venus. I don't give a shit about any retrograde Venus. If I got to go to work, I'm a chaos magician. I can go through any form of chaos and get something done. I don't care about that shit. That doesn't, it's the blood moon. Remember the blood moon like a year or two ago, whenever that was? Man, that's feast time for us. To those that are not connected to darkness and chaos because they don't understand it, see, we're doing work when nobody else is doing work. So it makes it open season. We have a lot to pick and choose from. Those of you guys that are stuck in all that astrological, fluffy, new age shit, all you're doing is making yourself sheeple. And you fall right into chaos and you get devoured by it. It's a very simple formula. It's just most people don't know it. But let's continue. So this event symbolizes the demiurgic drive to exist separately. I love that. And even though the God shall fall into chaos, we must recognize the power that the God possesses so as not to underestimate our enemy, lest we become lazy and defeated. Okay? This day is our day of rest during both the greater Sabbath, being December 24th. I might have to break this down again when Christmas comes back around. And the lesser Sabbath being each Sunday. And I was trying to find this at that time when I was doing some of them videos at that time during the holidays. Actively opposing the outward demiurge should be halted, and instead, the black adept should oppose the demiurge within himself. So this is you rejecting all of those systems of conformity, systems of indoctrination. And this is why I've been telling you guys hard the last several years. You must rid yourself of these things that serve you no purpose. Ask yourself, why am I still holding on to spiritual practices and things that serve me no purpose at all? What insecurity, fear, subconscious blockage, and why am I holding on to this for some type of security plan? Because there's a lot of people still holding on to shit that served them no purpose. And if you keep holding on to those things, you can never fully understand what this is describing right here. Okay? This is why you might hear some of the stuff that I was saying earlier and talking about. You're going to go, man, it sounds a little confusing. Oh, man, that sounds like it doesn't make sense. I don't understand. That's probably the reason why. Because you have not removed those systems of programming and indoctrination that need to be removed. Okay? So the black adept should oppose the demiurge within himself through meditation and self-centered ritual. What have I told you? When we enter the season of what they call the winter solstice, stasis and darkness, it's the most powerful time for self-centered internal personal work. Right? In other systems, they talk about the winter solstice being just cold and dark and just you don't do anything. And no, a bear doesn't hibernate because it just needs to do nothing. A bear hibernates because in that same process, while it's hibernating, it stores its energy. It's not just lazy and tired and sleepy because it's the winter solstice. Go look up hibernation. We did that on one class right here on YouTube. We pulled it up. Go look it up. And look at the hibernation process. In a sense, you're doing that. But what you're doing, look at it from an esoterical, occult, spiritual perspective. You're doing what it says here. Okay? Our 2 Sabbaths are celebrated during 3 p.m., each Saturday being the lesser Sabbath, right? And what time, according to religion in the Bible, did they say Jesus gave up the ghost on the cross? 3 p.m. There's serious occult messages behind the numbers 3 and 9 and multiples of it, especially the 9. Because the book of Revelation says the number of man is the beast. It's 66, 666, which is really the 9 reversed. 3 times 3 is 9. That takes on even more prominent in ancient Egypt. And there's a sacred science with the 9 because everything that's 9 equals 9. Let me explain. If you add up 666, you got 18. Right? 1 and 8 is 9. If you add up 999, you got 27. 2 and 7 is 9. Anything you times 9 by is 9. Just go through the whole 9 times table. 9 times 1 is 9. 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 and 8 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 2 and 7 is 9. You get the point. Okay? Now going to the book of Revelations when they talk about the gathering of what? The 144,000. Is it talking literally about 144,000 people? No. What's 1, 4, and 4? There's the 9 again. Who's fucking playing games? Why the 9? Because understand the 9 octaves or octaves of vibrational frequency, notes, sounds. It's not talking about 144,000 people. It's talking about the vibrational frequency that'll be raised through the number 9 to activate a certain amount of people. I ain't going to get into that here. They confused you and broke it down into tribes. You have the 12. 1 and 2 is 3. 3 and 3 is a multiple of 9. I can do this shit all day. Trust me. Okay. The Bible is nothing but an occult and numerology book when you really understand it. And when you understand it from an occult perspective, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just when you're promoting it and using all this religious dogma that it becomes a problem. So that 9, 1, 4, and 4, 12 tribes, 1 and 2 is 3, 3 and 3 is 9. We can do this all day. Okay. 72 angels are the lesser name, 72 angels are the greater name. 7 and 2 is 9, 7 and 2 is 9. Add them together, 144. 1, 4, and 4 is 9, 7, 2 is 9. 9 and 9, add them separate, that's 2. 1 and 8 is 9. We could do this all day. There's no number after 9, and they're programming you in a certain way. And I'm sure there's more you guys can look at on your own and keep uncovering. Okay. So, I mean, list goes on. But anyway, let me get back to this. All right. So 3 p.m. And of course, during now also keep in mind, they say 3 p.m. from noon to 3, the so-called took place. I don't know where they're getting these times from, but there again, we have the 3 and we have the 3 again, but that's all. You get the point. All right. And of course, during the entire day of December 24th, being the greater Sabbath, during the greater Sabbath, only 3 p.m. may be honored. Why? While all hours may be utilized during the lesser, the eclipse of our black sun is the reason for removing Sunday from our magical week. Okay? So there's a science behind this. For those of you who are Luciferian practitioners, you already understand this. I'm sure I'm telling you something you already know. For those of you that are, I know some of you did complete, you used all of last year to do your initiation, and some are on that path right now as we get to the end of this year. And I'm speaking more so to you guys now. Take that in, because that's kind of what you're getting ready to do. That's what you're going to experience to a degree, for lack of a better word. It goes a little more than that, but that's what you're tapping into. That's what you're going to experience when you do that work. That's what it's centered around. That's why that time of the year is a high time of the year, because those planetary hours, it's on the calendar. When even though we know the Gregorian calendar is a bunch of bullshit, but when we chart it, tracing it, that positioning and the movement of the planetary hours to that point on the Gregorian calendar, right? It's the day of the year that has the least amount of sunlight, right? And it's also symbolic of bringing light emerging from darkness, right? And that light is the intellect, right? That's the illumination. And as we know a term used for a Luciferian practitioner is the illuminated ones. Then you got all the spooky shit with the Illuminati, I guess, into something else. On the temple degrees of the Rosicrucian order, there's a degree on the 8th or 9th temple degree. And I'm telling you this because, yes, I went through all 12 degrees, pretty much as far as you can go on that, and continue and study. You become an Illuminatus in the temple degrees of the Rosicrucian order. It's not what you think it is. Not everybody thinks Illuminati and Illuminatus is all conspiracy theory, and there is that part of the Illuminati that's traced back to Adam Weishaupt, the Rothschilds, and all those wealthy people of the world. And they connected to esoteric orders like Masonry because a lot of those men had positions there. But even with Masonry, people are confused. Because I challenge anybody, if you're not a Mason and you never set foot in the lodge, I'm just going to politely tell you to shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. Because I have set foot in the lodge and done all my initiations and degrees. So you better come with something of substance, not just speculation of what you heard, what you saw on the internet in a movie, or what some charismatic lecturer said. Because if that person ain't been in a lodge, and if they're crying wolf or foul about something, I would like to know the lodge they belong to, what jurisdiction they were under, AF&AM, FNAM, International, Prince Hall. Because 90% of the shit I hear in these so-called lectures that these so-called conscious woke people talk about, and this shit I hear on the internet, it's all bullshit. Because believe me, You don't want to come to me with that stuff because I'm gonna put you through the ringer with it. Where are you coming from? Who'd you hear that from? Did you ever set foot in the lodge? Have you been initiated? If so, what letter are you? What degree did you go to? What lodge did you claim this soul or that? I've heard it all. Children are sacrificed, animals. I mean, all this stupid shit that you guys are getting from the internet and movies in Hollywood. Okay? I've been a Mason for well over 20 something years. I never saw none of that shit. Okay? Hey, could crazy shit be going on? Some people use shit to hide behind. I'm not saying that it did, but I'm saying if you're a person that's making claims like that, you better have some proof. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Because people have no idea. The lodges, the Eastern Star, all those things have made a lot of men and women better men and women. Okay, now yes, there's some religious stuff in there, I mean, but it depends on the lodge you belong to. I've been through that before in the past. I told you guys. Okay, so look, I've heard it all. I've heard people talk shit about OTO. If you've never been through OTO, I have. So you can't run that bullshit by me. I did a video a couple of years back. I put on the screen my credentials. I don't know, go back. It's 2-3 years ago or more. Showed you guys to show when I'm speaking from I experienced it. Not because I'm just talking about it, not because I just read a few books on it, not because I was in a few lectures no. And I didn't put those credentials up because I'm looking for pats on the back or brownie points. I did that to show that I'm speaking from experience. There's nothing you can tell me about the Masonic Lodge, the Rosicrucian Order, the Order Templi Orientis, the Knights of Templar, the Shriners. I've walked those paths. There's nothing you can tell me about that. And if you're telling me something new or making some new claim, I'm gonna get to the root or the source of it. Where'd you get that from? Who'd you speak to? I've had people come to me over the years, told me all types of crazy shit going on in the lodge. And then as soon as I tell them protocol, they back off. I say, well, what lodge was that? What jurisdiction? And they report that to the Grand Lodge. And then all of a sudden they disappear because they have an agenda, right? I've sat in lectures and people didn't even know. I've sat in lectures quiet as a church mouse, didn't say anything. And never said anything, just listen to somebody up there talking nonsense. Because sometimes you got to do that. Because you let somebody just talk till they can't talk no more, especially somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. And then you can address all the things. I've been in that situation too. Okay, because I don't walk around everywhere announcing myself what I know and what I don't know. Who does that? Right? You just live your life and you do what you do. Okay. But when it comes to that, there's a lot of bullshit out there. Okay. A lot of bullshit. And to this day, I haven't had anybody pass the sniff test. I'm talking about a person who only has negative things to say about esoterical and occult orders because they don't know anything about it. Temple of Set was in that for 3-4 years, raised up, left that. It's not, you can tell me about the Temple of Set that I don't know or that I care to know because that's a whole nother story. Bunch of fucking wannabes in that organization. That's a whole nother story. That's just my personal opinion. Okay. And if you don't think it's possible, yes, I've been through all those things because as I've said, I've devoted my life to this shit. I started at a young age, high school, early stages of high school, 9th, 10th grade. Okay. I'm a 52-year-old man. So I have plenty of time to do this shit. I'll be 53 in June. Okay. So yes, I've had plenty of time to do this. That's why I say I'm not one of them dudes. I don't go on the internet and put a title in front of my name. Elder this, doctor. And most of these motherfuckers ain't doctors of shit. Some of them go online and they take some like weak course where they get a certificate that they pay for, and now all of a sudden they're a doctor. High priest this, guru this, you see my name, it's right on the screen, plain old ass Baniti. I don't need no damn title in front of my name. My work speaks for itself. I don't need all that. To me, that's feeding the ego. Because I know a majority of them ain't doctors of shit. Trust me when I tell you. Proof that. Did anybody ever, a lot of these people, anybody ever question them to produce their credentials? And I'm not, and look, an accredited Academic school is not some course you take online for a week or two and get a certificate. That's not what they call accredited. A lot of them have that, and I don't doubt that. And I know some of them personally that do. We're talking about, and I don't really care. To me, it doesn't matter if you're credited or not, because even credited people don't even know their ass from their elbow sometimes. I'm just saying, if you're going to use all these accolades and titles, what accredited school did you go to get doctor? And what are you a doctor of, is what I would like to know. Okay. Well, I went to Willie Bobo and Fruity's School of Psychology, and I took a 2-week course. That's not. Stop. And you know what that's like? That's like them sites you can go to pay for a certificate, and you're now like you're officially approved to, or you're ordained to marry somebody. That's what that's like. It's the same thing. You can go online and get a certificate right now. And you can perform wedding ceremonies, and you're ordained. It's just simple as getting some certificate and paying for it. Okay. It means absolutely nothing. It's irrelevant. Really, at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. But anyway, that's the Black Sabbath. Let me run through the Black Earth, and then we'll go back. What time is it? We'll go back to the chat. So these are key points. The Black Earth now, there's another celestial point in space like our black sun, which is for us, the Black Earth. The black or scorched Earth exists as the second focus point of the moon's orbit around the Earth. This point in space is created in the moon's apogee. That is when she is the apogee is when she is furthest from the physical Earth. The Black Earth moves along the zodiac in much the same way as the black sun, but much faster. The Black Earth moves roughly 40 degrees each year and requires about 9 months to make a full revolution. There's the number 9 again. 9 months. You can't get past that number 9. What's also the number of the black flame of consciousness of Set? What's Set's number? 9. Okay. Coincidence? No. Okay. So 9 months to make its full revolution. And notice that high Sabbath is on what? The 24th. At what? 3 p.m. Add it up. 2, 4 is 6, and 3 is what? Is a number 9. We got 3s, right? We got 33 in the room right now. 3 and 3. 3 times 3 is 9. All right. Our black sun is represented, this is you're going to love, as Samael. I think you all can figure that out why, but we'll talk about it. The masculine force of anti-cosmic power, and symbolizes Damuel, which is the gateway or the opening to what? Lucifer's throne. Sahmael means poison nose of El when you look it up in the Hebrew. Who is El? El is the monotheistic God. El is the definite article in the Hebrew alphabet, and what? Al is the definite article in the Arabic alphabet. So when you say El Elo, you're saying the source. When you say Elohim, you're speaking in plural form, group. And when you say Allahumma in the Arabic, that would be the Arabic way of saying the Elohim. When you're saying the life giver or the source, like El Elo, you're saying Allah, right? Now, Allah ties into Allah. Now, if you go into Matthew chapter 27, verse 46, when Jesus was so-called on the cross, and right when he was about to give up the ghost, what does he say? They leave the Hebrew in there. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My father, why hast thou forsaken me? Okay. Eli, 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 lama sabachthani. Right? Go count up the numbers to that. You'll see the 9 in there too. None of this shit is a coincidence. The ghost is being given up at 3 with the 9, right? On that great Sabbath, you're going through that. You're separating yourself. It's like you're going through a death to go through a resurrection, because you're going through a form of initiation there. It's no different when you go into the lodge. You got 3 degrees. 3 times 3 is 9 in the blue house. That's just the blue house. And those 3 degrees represent birth, death, and resurrection on the 3rd degree. Okay? Can't get around it. Trust me when I tell you. Okay? And as I told you, when you enter from the anteroom into the lodge, and you always enter through the pillars of Jachin and Boaz, right? For those that know, look up Jachin and Boaz, right? You come in, blindfolded, getting ready to take your journey. Don't go to the north, though, because darkness is in the north. They don't do any work in the lodge in the north. It represents darkness. Who do we find in the north in the occult? Set. I could do this shit all day, people. Trust me. Everything is right there in front of you. There's nothing that they're not really hiding anything from you. It's just your eyes are closed. You can't see it. Why you think they blindfold you when you go in the lodge? Because they don't want you to look with these eyes anymore. They want you to look with this eye. It's right there, right in front of you. So now we see a strong connection with the black sun with Samael. Poison those of El. What's Samael's job? Is to destroy and annihilate all the falsehoods, incorrupt ways, to kill and destroy all the falsehoods and untruths that are out there, but also to kill and destroy all your weaknesses so you can turn them into strengths and resurrect yourself. Some refer to him as the angel of death. Not just, we don't look at it just in the sense of death, physical death, killing, to kill and destroy everything about you that is a weakness. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to raise up to see who you are. Samael, I consider him a patriarchal spirit, especially in my own personal work. Okay? I've gone through that plenty of times before. Okay? So no, people totally have no idea the power of Samael, especially if you work with the clip hop, especially if you understand Damuel, right? The cliff of Damuel, right? There's a large connection there with Samael. Okay? Not a coincidence. All right. The black earth naturally is represented by Lilith. Okay? Now, sun and moon, I find this. Where do you also see these teachings? That the divine masculine, the sun is represented by the male Samael, and the earth is represented by the female Lilith. We know that they are the facilitators of the tree, but you also find that in the 5% Nations teachings. The man represents the sun, the black man represents the sun, and the woman represents the what? The earth. What do they call their mates? That's my earth. Tried to tell you, Clarence 13X, Father Allah, was into occult stuff. I know that now. I didn't know that then when I studied it years ago as a young kid. That was one of my first introductions to consciousness. That's just my assessment. I look back now on the degrees and the lessons, the 120, 1203. Okay, that 3 and 9 is all encoded in them lessons. Supreme alphabet, supreme mathematics, 0 to 9, 0 to cipher, all the way up to 9. Okay? And that's what they refer to each other. The man represents the sun in the lessons, the woman represents the earth. It's the same thing to us in the occult. It's no different. Coincidence? I think not. 36 people in the room right now. 3 and 6 is 9. Why do I keep seeing the 3, 3, and 3, 6 every time I look over there? 3 stays there. Okay? That's spirit at work. Oh, went down to the 8. Spirit left. Stop. All right, you get the point though. All right. By Lilith symbolizes Nahemoth on the Clepothic tree. While the black sun determines which planets relate to which days, etc., operating in the macrocosm. The black earth determines the finer details of each correspondence operating in the microcosm. That's why I said a lot of the work we do is connected to that concept of the micro and the macrocosm. The natural forces of nature, science, and the planet within you and the forces in nature and creation. All of that is connected. But we work with it on an esoterical spiritual level. Some people just get spooky with it, especially the astrological stuff, as I talked about earlier. They get real spooky with that shit. And I don't encourage anybody to use astrology as like a religious, like people use it almost like a Christian uses the Bible. Remember, astrology, as I've said a million times over, is a great helpful tool to give you information about yourself, but it doesn't mean you're confounded to its circumstances. So when people say, oh, my chart is this and it says that, in my astrological chart, or I have a planet rising in this, or I can't do this. No, that's always open for change. You have the power and the ability to shape and mold your destiny. You're not a victim to astro. I'm not saying that there is power and knowledge and information in astrology, no doubt. I have a problem when people use it like it's no different than when a Christian says, I can't do that because the Bible says this. So when somebody says, well, I got an astrological reading on my chart says this, so I can't do that. So now you're back to faith, spook, and belief. And now you're back to accepting that there are forces outside of yourself that you are inferior to. So you can't be a god or a goddess. You are a mere sheeple or a mortal. And you have a mere sheeple or mortal mindset. That's all it means. You don't have to agree with that, but that's what it is. Okay? Remember, a good black adept or magician can do magic any place, anytime, under any sign. There's no such thing that we are practitioners of the occult left-hand path. Go, you know what? Man, I can't do that ritual today. The moon is waxing. I'm sorry, the moon is waning and it's in Jupiter. My astrology says Jupiter is a very volatile, chaotic influence. And according to astrology, I'm not supposed to do any type of work, especially things I'm trying to draw to me. That's what basic mainstream astrology will tell you. I'm just using something basic, simple. And I can tell you that's the purest bullshit I ever heard. You know how many times I've gone in Jupiter energy, done candle magic and other work, and got fantastic results? Because I don't accept in my mind that some planetary influence is going to stop the mind of God from penetrating some type of planetary influence when God created the planets. That's the difference. It's a mindset. It starts with a mindset. Take mind off of it. We say that word all the time. Who do you have? Set. Flip it around, the mind of Set. Okay, we have the mind of Set. I have the mind of Set. So when I'm saying mindset, I'm not just saying what mindset means on the surface. I'm talking to those Set activated people when I say that. Got to have the right mindset. I'm saying you got to have the mind of Set to understand this stuff. Okay, so I speak from the mind of Set. Okay, and there's the 3 again. Not a coincidence, people. You can do it all day. All right. Because of this, the black earth does not have a set of specific days, but must be calculated per day as it shall be found in the sign, and that depending on its cycle. And this should be considered when the magician prepares for an operation of malice. The black earth represents our physical world, Malkuth, transformed into our klepothic world, Nahimath. Okay? So let's want to make sure we caught that. Okay? The black earth represents our physical world, Malkuth, on the Kabbalistic tree, transformed into our klepothic world, Nahimath, which is the great work of the mystical body of Satan, or the adversary. Right? When you're saying the word Satan or Satanist, I've heard so many people give the wrong meaning of what that word means from the wrong origin of language. It just means adversary or adversarial. Anytime you see that word adversary in the Bible, you'll see that that title was not exclusive to some character on the pitchfork with a pitchfork on a hot sauce bottle. It describes an action. So when you say you're of the satanic current and you're coming from a more esoterical occult perspective, you're not saying you're that surface mainstream religious Satan worshiper that most people think anytime they hear Satanas or Satan, that's not what it means. It just means adversarial. You're coming from a different adverse perspective. You're not coming from the norm. You're not coming from a conformist way of thinking or a conformist mentality. That's what a Satanas is. Okay, when you go, whether you go into the Latin, on back into the Hebrew, etc. I've heard people translate this as just making shit up. Okay, like the black sun, Earth has its counterpart, that being Priapus, and let's talk about that. And we're going to finish with that. Well, and then the diamond and the final note. We're almost there. Very short. So, what is the Priapus? Having said all that, okay, this is some good stuff. If you understand it, this is some of the stuff that we study in the clip hop. we go a lot more deeper in the Klipothic classes, and this is a lot of stuff we study in the Luciferian Self Magic and Mastery class. This is the level of spirituality I'm studying. We don't walk around, hail Lucifer, wearing black. People are spooky as hell, man. People are spooky as hell. See, that stereotype of everybody who studies the occult in the left-hand path, not everybody wears black robes and shit like that all the time, okay? That's all spooky and indoctrination. That's not what this is about. Priapus, the apogee of the physical moon, creates for us the black earth, while the point in space known as Priapus is created in the moon's perigee when it is closest to the earth. Priapus represents not Malkuth, but rather a redeemed Malkuth or earth. This is the physical earth governed by the initiates of the white sun, which perfectly sustains the demiurge. Okay? Now remember, it's talking about an inner demiurge too here, so pay attention. Priapus or the white earth may be calculated enduring in time. The magician may engage in anti-cosmic rites, but should not consecrate new tools or initiate new members into this order, right? So there's a reason why we do it at that great Black Sabbath. Makes you even wonder when you go back and look at the classic rock metal band Black Sabbath, right? You go look at, man, I know it's always the debate. I had a debate with somebody not long ago. I don't know. And I know people prefer Ozzy over Ronnie James Dio. I just love Ronnie James Dio's voice. I prefer Dio as a vocalist. I mean, Ozzy was probably a better performer, but even Ronnie James Dio's solo albums, classic. If now we're going back to classic 80s metal and rock. That's again music of my era, but I prefer Dio. I think he's a better vocalist. He had a better natural voice, in my opinion. But anyway, I don't know why that just came to me. I was thinking of the group Black Sabbath. We talk about the Sabbath, but anyway. All right. So that's why we do that gives you even more clarity of why the Luciferian self-initiation rite is done at this time. And again, I was trying to remember where this was during that period. I will touch on this, and I will get with some of you in the Luciferian class, and I will remind you of this. And if you don't have this, I will make sure I put it. I try to scan, at least take a picture of it, and put it in the Luciferian on the Patreon. All right, the diamond. Now, a lot of people talk about the diamond body, right? This has been a popular thing the last few years, or we're going back a little further. The diamond is created when the sun is closest to the earth. While Priapus is the opposite of the black earth in our system, the diamond is the opposite of the black sun. The diamond represents the demiurge, just as the black sun represents Samael. The diamond may be calculated, and during its time of rule acts as blasphemy, and indulgence should occur. Okay? So we also know when we look at the natural process and the aging of when a miner mines for diamonds, right? There is a whole process of how a diamond becomes a diamond, right? Well, there's an esoterical understanding breakdown of us with us spiritually when they talk about an individual, quote unquote, mastering what they call their diamond body, right? So there's a connection with that there, okay? Then it talks about the final note. This work is the foundation of Black astrology and consequently of planetary magic from the perspective of the left-hand path. So are you going to see this in mainstream work? Absolutely not. Because we're taking this to a whole nother degree or a whole nother level, right? And is everybody going to grasp this or understand it? See, this is why you see what we do. We ain't got time for all the bullshit. We ain't got time to rehash all the nonsense that people keep arguing and debating over religion, the Bible, God, the devil, the ancient Egyptians. I'm this, I'm that, Chef Boyardee. Who gives a fuck? Because at the end of the day, none of that stuff is going to do anything to get you where you need to be. But people are still fussing and fighting over worthless shit. Okay? The wise student will experiment with and come to master this system, while the clever adept shall add to it in order to bring it to a state of protection. Meditate upon everything, evoke often, and inflame thyself in the anti-cosmic black light of the black sun. Okay. And reason why, obviously, you saw in the last week or so, I posted some videos on the black sun of chaos. I posted a video a few days ago on the is your black flame, is your inner black flame activated? Now you know what I was talking about, right? So kind of wanted to add a little bit more on top of that so you can get a clearer and a better picture. All right. All right. So having said that, let's go back into the chat. I'll pick up where we left off. I left it right here on the spot. I'm just going to go in order. So what's your thoughts on that? I'll take some of the questions that were already there. What's your thoughts? Any questions on that? It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of good stuff, right? Also, for those of you who do study the clip hop, you probably picked up on a lot of stuff in there with your clipothic work, because the Wrathful Chaos focuses hard on the clipothic realms. It's a great work. I really wish I could find this guy. I really do. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I just no luck. I came across that book, I think in 2017 or 16. Hold on. I think it came out, copyrights in the beginning. 2015 it came out, yeah. So I think I came across this. Well, you know what? He does have a Facebook page on. I think I went on there too, no luck. Yeah, so I probably came across it a year after it came out, about a year later. It was probably late 16. And working there, it blew me away. It's just, when you look at certain works and certain individuals that contribute work to the occult and the left-hand path, you can see how some definitely are tapped in. And to me, when I came across that work, I could definitely see that this dude was tapped in. He definitely was, he's dropping some gems in there. All right. When they're going for politicians, they are. I mean, look, it's coming. I mean, there has been some exposed. I mean, it's not so much when they're coming for them, but when are they going to stop defending them? Shit, look at all the stuff that's been revealed about Biden and his son, pedophiles. Okay, look at all the crazy shit they did. Look at all the crazy stuff that's on record with them. That's out there. You can go research it. Not just him, the son, right? So nobody's obsolete of this shit. Okay. Yeah, I heard that too. With Trump, heard he was helping the children in deep underground bases. Now it's funny you bring that up, because if you guys pay attention, because if you remember a few weeks ago, that one soldier that lit himself on fire because he claims, now he was a little bit disturbed, but they put that stuff out there to try to discredit what he was saying, because he died actually. If you remember that, he's claiming he was revealing that there was U.S. soldiers in them underground bases in Palestine killing Palestinians, and that's kind of why it looks like they got rid of him. Like I say, when you speak up, put yourself out there. So there is that information going on. I mean, there's a lot of shit going on, man. All right. Mojo says also, is it effective to chant mantras, or is it still effective to just speak the mantra in a regular tone? Thanks. That's a great question, Mojo. Excellent question. Me personally, I like to vibrate the mantras in a chant aspect. Now, look, everybody's different. I think it's more powerful. I think when you intone it in a vibrational frequency in that form of a chant, okay, I think it's a lot more powerful and a lot more effective than just speaking it in a regular tone. I don't think it's as effective. It doesn't carry as much power, and you don't get that. It doesn't resonate as powerful within the core of your being. And for years, even before I quote unquote fully submerged myself into the occult left-hand path, I was heavily into Sufism. And I used to love the chants of the Sufi. They were a lot of the Eastern mysticism and how they do the mantras and chanting. And I've incorporated that a lot into the work I do now. So I would 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm in agreement. It's more powerful to do it in a mantra chant like fashion. Also, I think it's important that you understand your tone when you chant. I've talked about this many times before. And many of us are on a note. It can be done simply by using a musical keyboard. You can even download. They have apps now with keyboards, and you can find the musical note that's in alignment with the tone that you chant. Right. This is something we did years ago in some of the esoterical cult orders, because you should chant and do mantras in your own personal tone and frequency. And that's usually on the musical note from A to F. Now, the planet vibrates at D major, and I believe it's 900 megahertz. And that's the natural vibrational rhythm of the planet between D and D major. Okay. And this is why the Buddhist monks, when you look at them for an example, and the most popular chant or mantra of the Om or the Aum, they believe that vibrational frequency is the glue that keeps this planet. That's why they do it continuously, and they believe within themselves and their connection, that whole micro macrocosm thing. Now, you'll find most women have higher tones of frequencies, for an example, when they chant. So they're usually somewhere between the A to C scale, most. Not saying that there aren't some women that have deep voices and they might have a lower octave. It's also, I'm giving you some of the science I was talking about earlier with the revelations and the 1, 4, and 4, spoken of in the book of Revelations, talking about the 9 octaves and the notes on the scale from A to F. That's getting in the, so this is all kind of connecting. I know some might sound crazy to some people because they don't know, right? Now, men usually are from C on down to F. Like super deep baritones could be on that up into that F range. Like I know mine is between the D major, D minor octave. And that's the sound when you guys are doing rituals with me in on the Patreon. That's the note that all my mantras are done in. Right? I have my crystal bowl too that I use to open and close the rituals. You can buy crystal bowls that are tuned into C, B, mine's D major, same octave and frequency of a chant. So if you use crystal bowls or any alignment tools like that, they should also be connected to your tone and your frequency. So I say all that to your question. What tends to happen is when you hit that right peak, you start to feel that tingling by the third eye, the bridge of the nose. That's how you know you're intoning in the right frequency. So that's even adds more importance to that, in my opinion. Okay. And then it can open you up to spiritual experiences. Obviously, if you do this in a group setting, and we'll do this when we do the rituals, it might be 4 or 5 of us there, but it starts to feel like there's 100 to 1,000 people because you're hitting a certain, not just rhythm. There's a difference between rhythm and unison. When you hit a pitch of unison, it feels like, because there is thousands of people there with you, because you can, through sound and vibration and frequency, you can open portholes and dimensions when you break the time barrier. And you can, through these octaves and sounds, you can let other beings in. Now, I'm giving you the science of the 144,000, right? It has nothing to do with 144,000 literal people, okay? Remember, that's an apocryphal book, right? So you gotta go back and do the research. There's a lot connected to that question that you asked, okay? Redo said, "Hey, Beniti, I sent a tutorial request suggestion to you by mail. Could you make it 30 minutes?" Okay, I'll take a look at it. About parasitic spirit intrusions and attachments. You say you don't banish. So what do you do? Okay, so you can't banish because energy can't be destroyed. That's why I say that. Cleansing is a difference from banishing, right? Grounding and cleansing techniques is what we do when it comes to things like that. But I will do something on it. That is actually a good topic, right? It's we don't do banishing in the sense and accept the concept in our mind that we are banishing some energy to somewhere that it disappears, because of the principle energy cannot be destroyed or created. It can only be manipulated, because energy is existence as existence itself. So if you're doing a banishing, like say the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, that's so popular in many uh, um, mainstream magical systems like the Golden Dawn, and even the old OTO uses it, right? I don't teach people to do that form because you're creating the illusion that you're banishing some unforeseen evil negative spirits. And my question is, where are you banishing them to? And exactly what is the process, literally, that energy is broken down to and completely annihilated and destroyed to the point where it doesn't exist. Now, you can manipulate energy. Okay. See, that's the difference. The banishing thing to me really is a higher form of religion. It's like when somebody thinks they're going to pray something away. I'm going to say a prayer to protect me against or to banish evil spirits. Yes, you can do things, invocations to manipulate the spirits, to control and manipulate the energy to where it doesn't affect you. But when it comes to your aura, walkings, or parasitic things that you're dealing with on an internal level, there's things that can be done for that too. It's not banishing, it's grounding, cleansing techniques, right? When you even look at rites in different religions like Catholicism as exorcism, right? You're not destroying the spirit. What are they doing? They're working internally to remove the spirit internally from the individual. So anytime you see these movies, right, once the spirit comes out of the person goes back to being normal. The Exorcist, any of these movies. But where does the spirit go? Yeah, it might show something in the movie like it disintegrates, but you didn't completely eliminate it. You just found a way to manipulate it and remove it. So that's got to be the mindset and the approach. Okay. And I didn't post it yet. I did a 20, 30-minute video earlier on Loki. And Loki reminds me of all that and the Norse mythology. We had a great class last night on the Patreon in the Norse left-hand path Norse mythology class. And as we know, Loki is a form of the adversary in that culture. But it's so funny how Loki is like a shapeshifter, just always. But he's involved in every facet of them stories. I mean, I'll post that video later, but it's almost the same concept. But I'll take a look at it. Janika Tesla says, one of my martial arts instructors who was teaching me about Daoism and the way in context of Ixini kept implying there were things he wasn't telling me and didn't want me exploring metaphysics. I don't know his exact motives, probably because it could be, and I'm just assuming, right? And sometimes you can make an ass of yourself when you're assuming because the 3 first letters of the word assuming is ass. But having said that, I'm just joking. It could be for 2 reasons. Either maybe he didn't want you to know something, or maybe he was at that time or that moment, maybe he was trying to protect you from something. I don't know. But I would trust my instincts and I would explore. I wouldn't really ever tell anybody not to do something because I'm not saying this is the case with him, but usually there's a telltale sign they're hiding something or they don't want something for you to know. Okay. More than likely. But and then again, let's be real. It could be something completely outside of both of those things. I don't know. But my instinct tells me that he just at that time didn't want you to know. All right, what else we got? Shamafia says, if people stop to learn themselves, they'll see they are the secret. How thyself. Why do you think you always say, oh yeah, you are remarkably remembered? Yeah. But what is it you also say when you go to think? What did I say is the most popular mantra that is the vibrational origin of our planet coming into existence? Because when you go do the research, they believe the central sun called Sol, S-O-L, excuse me, exploded. And anytime a sun explodes or a star explodes, it forms smaller suns or stars and planets. And when it was expanding and contracted out into the universe, it made that vibrational sound, that om, om. And what is the first thing you do when you go pause to try to, when somebody says something or asks you a question and you're trying to formulate your thoughts, what do? You go, you don't even realize it. You want to know why? Because you know that that's the origin of the essence of your physical manifestation of beginners here. You do it all the time. Yo, let me ask you a question. Do you remember where I put that? Let me see. You do it all the time and you don't even realize it. Okay. It's the same thing I told you when you go back to that connection to that origin of being in that primordial, chaotic, dark, watery abyss when you were in the womb of your mother. All of us, we're grown ass adults. And what do a lot of us do when we get cold or when we try to get comfortable, when we lay on our side, you go into a fetal position. Why is that? Because you never forget when you were in the womb of your mother. Because when you were in that darkness, in the comfort of that womb, that was your most safest place that you can recollect. People do it when they're cold all the time. It's the first thing they do when they're cold all the time. They put their hands between their legs and they go into fetal position. Some people just do it naturally to get comfortable, just laying on the couch or in bed. Ask yourself why, because you never forget. That's why I was saying earlier, there's nothing new you're being taught. It's always been here. It's just you're remembering now. That's why everything is changing out here. That's why you see everything that's going on out here in the world, shit being exposed, people being exposed for what they really are, all bullshit. That everything's coming to the surface now, and there's nothing nobody can do to stop it. Okay. I'm gonna take a few more. I'm gonna try to keep this under 2 hours tonight. Then you go to say, Janika says, he seemed to really enjoy keeping me in the dark about, okay, so then that's what he did. He just was trying to keep it from me. About the metaphysics of the martial art only caused me to learn further into exploring the Wuju state / void state. Keep in mind this, whether it's the Sith, whether it's the masters in the various systems of martial art, Deo, Taoism, all of those things. Remember, this is just, you got to know this. The master is never going to reveal all his secrets to the student. He's going to teach the student well where they can become a master in their own right. But just like you and just like me, and I don't say this with no disrespect, I'm not going to tell everybody everything I know, because a master doesn't do that. But a great master or a master teacher will teach individuals, their students, enough so they become masters in their own right, and then they pick up that torch from there and they develop their path of mastery. And then they, at some point, will take students and pass the torch on to them. But the master can't. It's the code of being a master. The master cannot reveal all his secrets. Okay? And that's one of the things in the code of the Sith that they reveal strong, the rule of one. Right? It's very similar to the code of the masters in martial arts. So I'm sure there was some connection to that. And then again, look, he just has some motives. Maybe he would just want to keep the shit. Didn't want you to know, right? Well, I think I just kind of answered that, Eric. Well, you typed that in at 9:19. So going through that work, I think now you can see how the black sun current energy can evolve you on the left-hand path. I would also refer you to recent videos when you get some time. I just posted one video, the Black Sun of Chaos, about a week or so ago. Go look at that. Go look at the activation of the inner black flame. And I think that information we just went over, how that activation of that black sun, when we talked about the black earth, right, and the black Sabbath, right, and how the black sun activates the current of Samael. The black earth was an aspect of Lilith, but that black inner hidden sun, or mastering that inner demiurge, what it does is it awakens and enlightens you to the level of consciousness and awareness in the psyche to address and destroy those weaknesses. It opens you up to a whole another level of what we call, quote unquote, consciousness. So there's that connection there with the micro and the macrocosm. Now, again, I'm just basing this on the time your question was at 9:19. So I'm sure you now saw your question and was kind of answered in large part to that material that we just went over. I would also, again, if you're still here, I would go look at those videos. Wow, Young Finance, what is this human experience really all about, brother? I mean, you got 50 years for me to tell you about. It's a lot, right? It's many things, and it's going to differ for certain people, different purposes and different reasons. And a lot of people base that on where they're at in their spiritual journey or path. They're going to have a different answer to that question. More lighter right-hand path philosophies are going to have a very programmed, dogmatic approach to that answer, that we're supposed to be servants, and we're here to serve and then get rewarded when we transition on and go into some place paradise. That's what lesser thinking people believe. Us, it depends. Do you embrace the concept of reincarnation, different manifestations? Some believe this is a learning ground. We're supposed to utilize our time wisely here as we go through these different incarnations to master ourselves, right? Some believe we are the direct product of those Nephilim or 200 fallen beings that was sent down to the planet, because it also says in these same Nephilims in Genesis 6:4, they were giants in the earth in those days. And they saw the daughters of men, and they came in into the daughters of men and produced children. Some believe we're direct descendants to those children. And our descension was our ascension out of that quote unquote form of a demiurge. So it just depends. I mean, there's more. I mean, that could be a class in itself. It just depends on your perspective and where you're at in your spiritual journey. I believe it's a lot of the latter things I just said, a combination of those. And you come to the realization that there's not one answer to that, because through your spiritual work, it's revealed to you who you truly are and why you're here. So that's why I said that answer is going to vary from person to person. Everybody's going to have a different perspective on that. Okay. But the main thing, you should first and foremost have an understanding of what your role is in the scheme of that question. And then you kind of work with it from that point, if that kind of makes sense to you. Right. I mean, I understand why I'm here. Not all of it's peaches and roses, not all of it's pleasant. But you have to learn to embrace every aspect of it, and you have to work with it, right? Okay, see what else we got. All right. Oh, Ultra Instinct says, told myself in my teens, separate the art from artist. I don't know them people, right? Yeah, and it's like that old other adage, separate the message from the messenger, right? There's been, people come along that like, if somebody come, like, let's take for an example, we can use Dr. York for an example, right? And I come from that, right? I had a large background of that for years, right? Obviously, and this is my opinion, I've come to the conclusion after working on that case and uncovering things, a man's guilty as can be. But did he come, and were there things he was teaching about that weren't productive? That were productive, correct things? Yes. Did he, he was quoting a lot of other masters that came before him. He wasn't teaching anything new. He was taking a lot of stuff from Dr. Delbert Blair, Zachariah Stitchin, Dr. Ben, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he was adding his own flavor to it. Now, don't get me wrong, some crazy shit when I look back on now that also, but again, he's a classic case. You got to learn to separate the message from a messenger. He's a pedophile. He deserves to be where he is. But even if a pedophile speaks truth, whether you like the pedophile or not, reality is truth is truth. That can't be changed. It's the same thing when you look at Farrakhan. You might not like certain things about a person. There's a lot of people that may not like Farrakhan as a person, but Farrakhan says a lot of things that are true. There's a lot of bullshit he says, but what do? We learn to take the meat and throw away the bones. I keep telling you guys that. Same thing. Separate the message from the messenger. Separate the artist from the artist. It's all the same thing. Right? So you can like an artist. You may not like them as a person. Okay? But you could like them as, some people don't have the maturity to do that, is what I'm trying to say. Okay? So, yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. But yeah. Everybody knows. Yeah. Young Fana says, what is the cult meaning behind music? Like, what is music? You're asking questions that would take me 40 years to answer, right? I can only talk in real quick in reference to that. I do believe, for an example, our generation, when you look at whether it's classic rock, whether it's old school R&B and hip hop when it first came on the scene, like I'll use hip hop. Hip hop back then in our era obviously when you go back to the early 70s, right? Look at just the first of all, if you look at some of those first rap groups, they all look like Parliament and George Clinton, Superfunk. If you go look at groups like Melly Mel and the Furious Five and some of the first pioneers, right? They look very funkadelic. That was the style and the dress code of hip hop at first. But then when it started to evolve, I do believe, whether you want to refer to them as the ancestors or the elders, gave us that music to speed up our intellect. Because look at the creativeness when you go back. I'm not talking about what it is today. You know how I feel about that. Yeah, I'm a grumpy old head. I can't listen to that damn whiny, whatever they call it, trap music, sing along, kindergarten. My little nephew or niece can write, or my little son. Go look at the creativeness back. And I do believe it was a gift given as a form of expression. Music carries tones and frequencies. It can play off of your emotions if you understand how it's created. Sounds, bars, beats per minute is critical, right? Every track is calculated based on a certain level of beats per minute, which can affect your emotions. It could speed up your heart rate. They know what they're doing when they create all types of genres of music, sounds, instruments. They're alignment tools for good or bad purposes, but they're also avenues and forms of expression, right? They can be used for very uplifting, powerful things. So I believe every form of music that was used, is just my perspective and my understanding of music and growing up and how I've experienced it. I do believe at first these were very powerful tools, and now they're using it as weapons against us. Okay. Because back then, especially again, I'll use hip hop as an example, and that's why we have that hip hop occult show. We talk about things like that on there. If you look at back then, there was what everybody didn't sound the same. Everybody, you had party rappers, you had political rappers, you had rappers that were telling you what was just going on in the world. You had hardcore gangster rappers, right? Everybody, you had their own style. You had guys who were just lyricists. Rakim was a spectrum of in the middle of all that. He was a great storyteller, telling all those things, and also his experiences. And that's why I say to this day, he's the greatest MC of all time. He can take any of these motherfuckers. I don't care who it is. His shit from 1986, his first album, sounds better than half of the shit of the dudes that's out today. You can take any of his old shit, it'll still stand the test of time against any of these dudes. But I do believe it was a form of spiritual expression and creation, and it could have been, and we still use it and can't use it as an uplifting tool. But look what they're doing to it now. Now they got a bunch of ignoramuses mumbling, ippity dippity doo, poopity doopity ba, dippity dippity dee, dippity doopity doo. That's the shit you got now. Now we got some other dude just singing. I don't know. He's trying to rap, and it's confusion, and it's very dumbed down. It's very lethargic because most of these dudes is on what do they call that, Percocets and Mollies, and they doing all, and they're very lethargic, and you can tell. Even when you hit a mumble rappers, they say, I mean, you would think that you would listen to somebody with Down syndrome rapping. That's how bad that shit sounds. But that, I'm saying that to say, look what it's become, to prove my point, and look where it came from. Now, again, if you're a very younger person and new, you wouldn't fully understand what I'm saying, because you might have grown up in the very recent generation, especially if you're very young in your teens and very early 20s. So you're not going to be able to connect with what I just said. But if you are in your 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond, you probably have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot. Tanika says, they will say the adversary's true name is Lucifer, the morning star, but Lucifer was initially a Roman god brother of Venus. And some say in that form, it was a female, right? But here's the thing with that. Anytime you talk to a Christian, I say, why are Lucifer and Jesus given the same attributes? What are you talking about? They're both referred to as the morning star. Okay. You can find in Isaiah 14, verse 12, Satan's referred to as Lucifer, is referred to as the son of the morning star. And Jesus in Revelations 22, verse 16 is referred to the son of the morning star, the root of David. Okay. That's why I did a video a while back. Is Lucifer and Jesus, ? The same being? Is somebody lying to us? I did a video on what you're talking about, the Venus aspect and that whole morning star. And Lucifer, when you go into the Greek, when you look at that, you're saying light bearer. Okay. What light does Lucifer bear? He's the only deity that represents the embodiment in harmony of light and darkness simultaneously. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Right? And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. See, the Christians think that's Jesus, but they have no clue. So if you go into the lodge, you get that esoterical information because they don't understand the languages. See, that's Jesus. He was the Word in the beginning. I know all the surface there. I can tell you everything they'll say about John chapter 1, the first couple of verses. I can tell you word verbatim. But they don't understand when they got to the part, and the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Okay, it's all tied into that. Okay, son of the morning star, the root of David. Okay, Dawid in the Hebrew, my beloved. Okay, like man, what's this song by the Ghetto Boys? My mind's playing tricks on me. Right, that should be the theme, their theme song. Right, be careful, because like that song, your mind can play tricks on you if you're not paying attention. Janika says, so unless the Greeks took the New Testament and suddenly inserted Lucifer into the Bible as part of the New Testament, then it's a load of bullshit, and there's no real connection. That's the research. That's the conclusion. And if they're going to say that there's no connection, then why did they leave it in there? Whether it comes from the English, the Greek. If we look at, and I'm just coming from the perspective of the translations they use, the King James version. I don't care if it's the New King James, whatever version. So did they make a mistake by leaving it there? And your point is valid, and I see where you're coming from. So I just asked them from the perspective that it's there. I'm not so much focused on, I mean, I know the answer to that, but I'm saying they don't know the answer to that. Okay. He says, when I first came on the left-hand path, I ran into so many people who were, yeah, you'll find some weirdos. Full of ish and a ton of misinformation. I was so happy when I found you, Ramana Noon, Cosmic Serpent, and a few others. Yeah, well, and let me make this clear. I don't care. It could be any spiritual path. You're going to find that, and you could be in the church, the masjid, the temple, the Buddhist temple. You could be in the conscious communities, and you could be with the Kemetic groups. You could be with the Ifa people. You're going to find some characters, and you do find it in the occult left-hand path. No path is obsolete. And let me put this out there. Don't think just like every other facet of life. Don't think you're going to come on this path and you're not going to find a bunch of characters and con artists and bullshit people. They exist in every walk of life, every facet of life. You can't avoid it. So I don't want nobody to come on this path and think, just like in the real world and everyday life, it exists there, it exists here too. So don't fool yourself. Some people would let their guard down and they think, oh, everybody on the occult. No, everybody on the occult left-hand path is not straight. Don't believe that shit. Just like everybody at your job isn't straight. Just like everybody, if you belong to a church, just like you got some characters in your church or your masjid or your temple. Or if you belong to a sports team or a group or an organization, right? There's always characters you got to deal with, always people you're going to be battling, right? It comes with the territory. I don't like it. It gets to me sometimes. It pisses me off. But at the end of the day, it's part of the process. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. All right, what else we got? Yeah, as they say, yeah, music is the universal language, right? You can even go back to like certain tribes in Africa with the talking drum. I have a talking drum. We use the talking drum in some of the rituals we do. Okay. Certain patterns, tones, and frequencies you can communicate through certain instruments like the drum. And the talking drum is an instrument that goes back to the indigenous tribes of Africa. That's sometimes how they were able to use a universal language to communicate with each other from a very far distance. So yeah, there's, I mean, even when you go into a lot of African traditional spiritual systems like Ifa, Santeria, Palo, 21 divisions, any Afro-Caribbean religions, right? Drum and music is an essential and integral part of those systems, especially when you work with the Orisha, right? Tambours. Each Orisha has their own songs, chants, and rhythms that are played. And it's played in a certain rhythm, frequency, and it's done a certain way in order to bring that Orisha down to mount and initiate. And the drummers that play for those, they have to go through a serious initiation system. They're called bata drummers, right? And you can't just be a drummer, you have to be initiated to play at those type of rituals or ceremonies. So it's a process, right? So even behind that, when dealing with music, it can be very ritualistic. All right. Isaiah Ramirez says Jackson 5. Yeah, yeah. Another iconic art. Yeah, like I said, in my opinion, I don't believe Michael Jackson did any of that shit that they said. First of all, them parents, they should be questioning them parents. How do you let a small child sleep over a grown man's house when you know that Michael Jackson he didn't not want to stop being a child. He was scarred from how he was raised and all the shit he went through. There's no evidence to support. I do not believe he touched any of them children. That's just my opinion. First of all, me as a grown adult, I would not let my small child sleep over any grown adult's house and sleep in their bed with them. And nobody's up in arms questioning why them parents allowed that shit. I told you, Michael Jackson, Prince, and R. Kelly, I believe, is guilty as fuck. That's a whole nother story. What happened to them had a lot to do with them getting their masters back. Michael Jackson and his family sold that shit. Go look it up. You can live off, his children's children can live off of that shit. Okay, that's why I told you early in the beginning of the video, when they sign these artists, yeah, they give them A&R deals and they give them money up front. They give them X amount of percentage. But the one thing they don't give them, and that's the whole thing too with all the Diddy shit going on, they don't give them their masters, ownership of their music. And that's where the real money is. Sounds good on the surface when somebody throws you a couple mil, or, I mean, back in the day, they weren't even doing that. You might get a couple 100,000 to sign a signing bonus, which basically means the first of that they take back, and then you find out there's fees for this, for touring, expenses. I mean, I've watched all the stories in the documentaries how all these people all these artists got taken advantage of. One that went under the radar, and just about less than a year ago, De La Soul. Okay, if and you probably would only know this if you're actually a De La Soul fan. De La Soul, until just recently, you can find, and not on YouTube, I'm talking about, on any digital platform, you could not find all of De La Soul's albums until recently. And I'm going to tell you why. And we talked about this on the Hip Hop Code Show. De La Soul refused. Keep this in mind now. When a lot of these artists who have been around for a while, remember, they signed deals where they didn't know how the digital platform was going to explode like this. They had no idea the internet was going to become what it became. So a lot of these owners to the rights to the music, they become even millionaires and billionaires because all these platforms like Amazon and Spotify that you listen to music, they get hits off of all that. So they tried to cut De La Soul a straight up deal, and what was getting ready to happen in the language in their contract, it was getting ready to time out. And it said at that time when the contract timed out, all of their ownership and masters had to be given back to them. So they waited several years. And that's why, if you paid attention, you didn't see any of De La Soul's music available digitally on a lot of these platforms at all. And that was the reason. So they just got, and I commend them, they just got all their masters back in their ownership. And now you can go on Amazon, Spot, and you'll find De La Soul's music, but they get every penny from it now. So they decided to hold out and did it smart, because a lot of artists are going back now and looking at the language and the contracts they signed. Another one who's going through it right now is Special Ed, if you remember the rapper Special Ed, right? There's a lot of old school artists who are now waking up, and other artists that there's a way they can get their masters back if you get the right lawyer who understands the language of the contract. But once you sign it over to them, you're done. It's a wrap. Can't get it back. And De La Soul refused to. They were trying to offer them, kept throwing money upon money. Matter of fact, you can see them talk about it. I think it was on, it was on Drink Champs last year. They talk about the whole thing on Drink Champs. I like to watch that sometimes when I get a chance, because the stuff they do, I mean, some of it's clowning and goofing, but there's some good stuff there. I told you another platform I like to watch where artists come on and really get to the nitty gritty of the business and certain sides of things. Check out Math Hoffa's channel if you guys haven't. Math Hoffa brings on everybody, and And they drop jewels on there. I like that because I'm into that type of stuff. But he's got another great channel I would encourage you guys to watch. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Jackson 5 classic, man. I mean, look how many people wanted to be. New Edition was supposed to be the resurrection of the Jackson 5. Go 1983 pop. Go listen to Popcorn Love. If you didn't know any better, you would have thought that was the Jackson 5. When I first heard it, I thought it was the Jackson 5. When New Edition first came on the scene, remember. And then they came out with the white version of of the Jackson 5 and the white version of New Edition. The same guy from Boston that put out New Edition, what they call New Kids on the Block, right? That's who they were, right? Please Don't Go Girl. I think that was New Kids on the Block, I believe. That was like the white version of New Edition of the Jackson 5. They had the little short white kid who had the high pitched voice. You understand? Yeah, they were trendsetters. New Edition was modeled after the Jackson 5. And they'll tell you that. And they talked about it in interview. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and there's some artists that just last the test of time. Like you can listen to some artists, no matter how old they get, they just last the test of time. Vega Monster, what's going on? Yeah, appreciate you. We talked earlier today. I tell Alex I said hello. All right, cool. Glad to hear she's doing good. Anthony says happy Friday. All right, let me run through some more of these questions. Stay on for a little bit more. I got to be up in the morning. I know guys, I got to go out to the west coast of Florida tomorrow. Those guys playing in a tournament out there. Sethnian Gnosticism seems to imply that the Ein Sof is the true God in multiplicity, but that the demiurge wants to oppress the soul of the prisoner via the archons to weaken the individual, so that the individual does not realize godhood or being more than what the test subjects thinks it is. Okay, I'm trying to figure where we're going with all this. Maybe there's something down here. I'll keep checking. Tanika Tesla says, Nikola Tesla's voice, I'm out. Yes, the 3, 6, and 9. Tesla, all of them. Einstein, all of those guys were they knew these sciences. Even when you look with that whole Philadelphia experiment, the technology he developed with the ability for our technology to disappear off radar, that was tapping into breaking, the time, false illusion of linear time. But we saw what happened, right? The movie was 1 and 2 were trying to show you, what happened. That used to be one of my favorite movies as a kid. But the first Philadelphia experiment. I used to be fascinated with that as a kid. The one that came out in the early 80s. It was a good movie. There's a theory about the Council of Nine. Yeah, there's that number 9. Supposedly a group of ETs that are the Galactical Council of the Universe. No, I mean, that's stuff. Look, I'm cautious how I talk about that stuff because some people can get a little space cadeted with it. Look, we'd have to be fools to think we're the only intelligent life form in the world, in the universes. Okay, look, there's enough evidence to use basic common sense and reasoning to show that there's other life out there. Okay, yes, a lot of it we can sit here and debate about and speculate and this, that, and the other. Okay, but the reality is, I'm along the lines where I accept that I do believe, not based on just spookism, but based on some of the evidence and research that I've seen and uncovered and studied, just like all of you have, that there's definitely intelligent life form out there. We'd be stupid to think otherwise. Okay. Now, I do believe there's a lot of bullshit and conspiracy out there that goes along with it, and that's what creates the confusion. So what tends to happen is for some, it becomes hard to decipher what's bullshit and what's real. Because a lot of people will use when people take some of the truth to certain things and then mix it with their conspiracy theories, then this is where it causes confusion. Okay. I never heard. Isaiah says, why do people say Mason have generational curse? Never heard that. So I don't even know what you're talking about. Again, I would have to ask, who's this Mason? Who said that? And where are they getting that from? I've never heard that. So I really can't speak on that. I think it sounds like pure bullshit to me. But my question would be, What you met a Mason? Who was it? What lodge were they from? Where did he get that from? That's the questions you got to ask people when they say stuff like that. Because to me, that just sounds like some superstitious made up bullshit. Okay, never heard of that term, so I couldn't really answer that question. Yeah, and I mean, hey Anthony, I appreciate you calling them out, but hey, yeah, these guys, look, like you said, Dr. Bill Valentine fraud, Dr. B. So yeah, because they always trying to sell something, right? I'm not saying, look, there's stuff that they're saying that only problem, like sometimes, like when you hear Doctor, he tries to use these big words and tries to make it sound all, the conspicuous of the academic of the anti-climatic, or it's come on, you know. So I feel you on that one because sometimes people, like I said, look. I'm not saying that some of them are not saying things that there are some truths in it, but I'm in alliance with what you say there, brother. Okay. And we got to come to that conclusion, right? My thing is, I'm not interested anymore in anything that is not going to help me master myself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. Okay. That's what my 5 points of self mastery on the Patreon. My Patreon channel is geared around that, those 5 points. I use the pentagram and the imposed Baphomet, and I give you that. That's my breakdown and meaning of it and how I use it to teach my students that are on that platform. That's what you're there for. If you come on the Patreon page, you're learning the 5 points of self-mastery. If anything we're doing or anything I come across is not geared to those 5 points of self-mastery, I want nothing to do with it. I don't care. I don't need to listen to a historical lecture back in the day, how great we used to be. The problem is with a lot of those conscious platforms that they're just talking about the same shit. I bet you right now, I'll put money on it. One of you guys can go on right now and you can go look at whether it's Sonnet or any of them. I bet you somebody's having a debate right now about the Bible, God, and the devil. I'm sure one of you guys can go find it and you can just confirm what I just said. Okay, 100%. So go check that out. You'll see. And that's done for a reason. It's a distraction. Why are we arguing about the same thing? It can't only be other than the fact for views, hits, and to make money. Really, in 2022, all I see on these platforms is the same thing. The Hebrew Israelites against the Kemetic people. Let's debate some African black science versus. But you know what I noticed none of these platforms talk about? All these so-called African woke platforms. How come they don't talk about voodoo, witchcraft, and sorcery? How come they don't talk about a lot of the ancient indigenous African tribes that were the foundational? This is where black magic and sorcery has its root. How come they don't talk about it? How come they don't talk about voodoo? How come they don't talk about anything? They only talk about certain parts of Africa that are nice, like Egypt in all its glory. And I love Egypt. I study. Egyptian Heka is one of my main paths. But how come nobody's talking about the shaman, the witch doctor, the sorcerer? How come nobody's talking about systems like Palo Mayombe that are rooted deep in West African spiritual tradition? They don't talk about it. I'm not talking about here and there. They might say that, but they don't do any classes in detail and thorough on any of that stuff because that's not their intent. If you really want to wake up the masses and change the paradigm, get your people into that. I told you, fuck a million man march, fuck a million man gathering on DC. I told you, now you could have changed the frequency of the planet if a million drummers would have converged on Washington, D.C. That would have scared the living shit out of them. Can you imagine a million people playing drums at the same time? Do you realize that could literally alter the magnetic grid of the planet if done correctly? How come nobody wants to do things like that? That could be a worldwide ritual. Okay? They don't care. You can go there and we shall overcome. Ungawa Black, you can do that shit all you want. Meanwhile, while that's going on, they had the National Guard, they had the FBI, the police just waiting in case people got out of hand. They don't care. You can protest all you want. I told you, protesting is a waste of time. They laugh at you when you protest. Let them do a little protesting, let them break a few things, smash the little things, get angry, and then you disperse and go back to doing the same shit. Do something ritual that's going to transform and actually change something. Just imagine what I just said. Can you imagine a million drummers playing in sequence at the same time? You might think that that's impossible. It's not. That's downright scary to them. That shit will scare the living daylights out of them. That will bring out all that stuck in them, the fear that they're hiding behind. Listen, trust me when I tell you. So don't talk to me. When they used to come to me $1 million, I said, let's do a $1 million man drum. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Because I told them that shit you doing, that's a waste of time. You just playing right into their hands. And where did it get us? Where are we at today in 2024? What did it really do? I know people talks about it like some great. And by the way, hate to bust your bubble. That concept was taken from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Go look at it. Charles Taz Russell. Okay, 1914. Go look at it. Okay. I'm trying to tell you, people, wake the fuck up. Okay. There's nothing new above and beyond the sun. I keep telling people that. Adam 22 from No Jumper Podcast is spreading misinformation on a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I know a little bit about him. I see him. He's kind of a whack job too. Taja, I got to get with you. I saw your text. I meant to get back with you. So they that Philadelphia tournament got canceled and they changed it to Chicago. We're going to Chicago now, but I'll talk to you. I'm leaving out actually for Providence next Thursday, but I got to give you a call, man. And we got to set up that next show. Yeah, it was. We found out about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, long story. So, because that tournament got canceled, they signed us up. They got us into another one in Chicago. But I'll talk to you about it. All right. What else we got? Yeah, actually, where you at, Taja? Taj, I'm gonna send you a link. Hold on. I'm gonna send it right to you. I can't see. Why does that do that? Oh, there we go. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna send it to your email. Hold on. You got a minute to come in. Check the French.com one. That's the one I sent it to. All right. If you could pop in for a minute. I just sent it if you're still here, all right? All right. What else we got? Where'd I leave off? Hold on. Wow. So 37, I just passed 36 chambers. Yeah, the 5% there, I'm telling you, the 120, go back and look at it, man. Go back and look at that shit. There's a lot in there. What else we got? Yeah, the 36 chambers. That's a good point. Yeah, there's the number 9 again. 36 chambers. It's everywhere when you're paying attention. Louis, it's everywhere. Okay, what else we got? Bree says, every time I try to get into astrology, I get completely turned off by stars. They go overboard with the shit. Listen, I'm not saying, look, there's some good stuff out there. Don't get me wrong, but that new age shit that gets, your Capricorn and your Saturn energy and it's just some people just get. I've seen it. I'm not saying all. Right? There's something we study called Glypthic astrology, and kind of what we were going over was a little bit of that. It had some connection to it. But this mainstream astrology shit, yeah, this shit's out of control, man. I'm gonna bring Brother Taja in.
Peace.
Yo, I meant to get with you, bro. Been busy. Yo, I don't know if you heard me, man. They rerouted us to Chicago, bro.
Yeah. I heard you saying that. It's all good, bro. It's all good.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still gonna come through in the summer one way or the other.
We definitely got to do
We're
that.
still going to step. That's why I was going to get with you. I'm still going to set it up just to come through. I'll just come by myself.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
But I'm glad. Also wanted to get you here. I know it's been a minute. We gotta We bypassed and missed last month. So when some of that stuff was coming up about the music and all that, I said, man, we gotta definitely get another show. It's been a minute.
Yeah, we definitely got to do that. As a matter of fact, it being Friday, this weekend is pretty open for me, so I'll drop something to you probably by Sunday night.
All right. Now, this week won't work because I'm leaving for Providence on Thursday the 21st.
Right.
And I'll be back Monday, so we could the following week would work right after that. The
Yeah,
last
I
week.
mean, whatever you want to do, I'll just send it. I'll send you what I got, and you can
Yeah.
look at it over the next
No,
week or whatever.
definitely.
We'll
Last
figure it
week in
out.
March is good. I'm good that week. We could do Friday,
Okay.
Saturday, or Sunday.
Okay, cool.
And definitely for sure. That really, and April we're out of gas. All 4 weeks, I'm not here. The whole month of April is gonna be crazy. So
That's all good. That's all
yeah,
good.
but we'll work it out. But yeah, man. So a lot of good stuff coming up though, man. Tonight, some good stuff coming up, especially
Yeah, definitely. Definitely
the
from what I caught is good.
music thing. So I don't know if you got some input. I just figure I'll bring you in, man, real quick. Something you want to add? I'm just gonna keep going through the questions.
Nah, I
I'm gonna
mean
try to get to most of them.
the only thing I had actually typed in the chat partially was just there was a theory I heard a while back. I don't even know what it's called, but it's about the sound vibration and frequency being the reason for physical life on this planet.
Right.
It's like putting sand on paper, in front of a speaker, or looking at the paper in a woofer or a subwoofer vibrate. It brings it to life. So to me, it makes total sense because everything is vibration.
100%. Everything. And is that not linked into one of the 7 hermetic principles of
Absolutely.
Tahuti? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nothing ever rests. Everything is moving. Everything is in vibration frequency. We think things rest. Like I said, it's just when things are vibrating at a low frequency, it gives the illusion that it's not moving. Right now, tie that into ourselves. We take on this human physical form only when we're vibrating at a low frequency. And that's why I did a video a couple of days, last week, a few days ago, whatever. Are you a low vibrational frequency being? Because then it goes even further than that, right? So everything you said, yeah, that's on point. And the person that was asking the question earlier about mantras, it kind of opened the door to all that, right? It kind of opened the door.
Yeah, exactly.
All that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even down to walking in a room full of people, some people you gravitate towards, some people repel you. You know what I mean? Or some people they're in a low vibrational mood and you feel that. You know what I mean? Or in a high vibrational mood, you feel that. It's just, if you think about it, it operates in every part of our physical being.
Everything. No, like you say, that's a good point. How many times over the years have we, when we were young or whatever, you walk into a club, a party, a room, an event, right? And you might say, oh man, the vibe in here is chill, man. It's great. You're having fun. Or you might walk in and go, yo, man, this vibe is crazy in here. It's ill in here. Something don't feel right. Right?
Yeah.
You say, oh, something don't feel right.
Something don't feel right. Or I'm not feeling that.
Exactly. You're tapping into that vibrational frequency. We don't look at it like that because we just think that's everyday shit. And it is, but it's just we're not paying attention.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
Good shit. All right. Let me see what else we got in here. You want something to throw in, just throw it in, bro.
Gotcha.
All right. So yeah, Bree was talking about the astrologers. That's where we left off. Yeah, you hit it on the head, Bree. They can go completely overboard with the shit. I'm right there with you. I want to name some names, but I've seen them on the internet. Some of the shit is downright comical. I mean, look. But again, as I said, you take the meat, you throw away the bones. You just take the meat, you throw away the bones. All right. Anthony Jahir says Black Star, the hip hop group from the 90s, been on. Yeah, Black Star, Most Def, Talib Kweli. I was glad and disappointed. You probably saw this, Tajan. You saw Most Def kind of back down on his comments from Drake.
I saw that. Me too.
What he said was right. Fuck.
He was telling the truth. He was definitely telling the truth.
Look. Man, you know how I feel about this.
So many SKUs in here. So many products. It was hilarious.
But he was on point.
Right.
And he was saying the truth. Look, let's call it for what it is. Like, look, here's the reality. Come on, man. You can't. we take a kid that came up on Degrassi High. How do you take? Come on, I mean, A&Rs can take anybody and turn them into something. And now I'm hearing this dude's getting butt lifts and he's getting his abs shredded. I'm just like, yo,
but is your ego that big, Drake, that you can't take that as the truth? Because it really is, you know.
Listen, man. I mean, you can't even put Most Def, Talib Kweli, or even in the same sentence with Drake, right?
Nah,
I mean,
not at all.
Drake is pop. It's pop / commercial R&B, sing along hip hop. I don't like. I'm not saying what he's doing. Like, some of his music, I don't really classify. I mean, it's just me. I don't classify his music as rap. I think it's
Nah, and that was the question. Yo, do you remember those shows that the commercials they used to come on when they had the top, I guess it was the top 40 hits, and they would be selling the kids version of a Kid Pop. Like they could do that with every one of his albums. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone.
Like you couldn't do that with Talib Kweli. You couldn't do that with Mos Def. You know what I'm saying?
No.
You couldn't do that with Rakim. It's a literal fact. There's nothing for anybody to get offended about. It is, well, you do what you do, and that's making you money. Great, you know what I mean. But at the end of the day, we can't call it a cat when it's a dog.
That's what I'm trying to say. Look, if regardless, old, young, if you can't see the disparity in the music right now, you're fooling yourself. I get it. I know, because like I've built with a lot of younger heads, and they go, well, didn't when you grew up, your elders were saying the same thing? Yeah, they were, no doubt. They used to get on us like, what's that stuff you listen to? But let's be real. Let's look at even the content I'm talking about, or what we were listening to, the skill level. Yes, because every generation's older elders are going to do that to the younger ones, because we're going to turn, we had our music. I get that. But my thing is, if you can't sit there and tell me there's not a great disparity to where the music is now and where it came from in general, I'm talking about. I mean, it don't take a blind. I mean, you got to be blind if you don't see that. Okay, like, look, I don't care if you're a new head. That mumble, it's mumble crap. How could you even say that that's music? Yeah, well, somebody rapping like they got Down syndrome is talent. I mean, that's really all it takes to entertain somebody nowadays.
Right.
I don't know, man. It's fucking crazy. But I just wish he wouldn't have backed down on his comments, because he was spot on. I know somebody probably told me, hey, look, man, it's probably not good for you, this, that, and the other. But look what they do, though. Let's just call it for what it is. They take an individual in all these genres, and they try to get a neutrinoid that can appeal to all races. They get a Beyonce, they get a Drake, and look, call it hating. I always despise Beyonce. I think she's mediocre, average singing ability, but that's not what they're marketing her for. It's the sexuality. If she couldn't dance and do all the performing, she would be. I'm not saying she's a terrible singer, but there's no way you can tell me she can blow. And there's definitely racism there, because even when she came out with what was that movie she did with Jennifer Hudson? Jennifer Hudson blew her away in that fucking movie.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't even close.
Right.
But let's be real. Jennifer Hudson's, she's a more full-figured, darker sister. They don't promote that. Beyonce, she appeals to Asian, white, Latino, and black men. Can promote it. Drake, same thing. He can appeal to all audiences and genres. Now I saw this shit. I laughed my ass off when I heard it. I thought it was a joke. Then this heifer just put out a country music song. Horrible. Horrible. And the country music world is in an uproar. I heard that twang and shit she was trying to do. I was like, wow. They really trying to push it down people's throats. I mean, it was awful. I mean, you talk about, when I first came across it by accident, I think it was on the internet. I had clicks. I thought it was a joke. Like, I thought it was like a comedy thing or mockery thing. And then I realized she had really put out a country music song. It's terrible.
That's wild.
Fucking embarrassing. But they jam. She's a neutral. I told you guys this shit years ago, going back to the early 2000s. They are going to jam you down. They're going to jam her down the throat because she has international, worldwide appeal. They market her image, her likeness, and all that shaking ass, and all that's what sells. But if you strip all that away and just look at her natural lyrical ability, it's average at best. I'm just going to call it for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's part of the programming
Same,
process.
same with J-Lo. There's a lot of that out there.
Another one can't sing worth shit.
Right.
Horrible.
Right.
But
It's
she
the
can
show.
dance.
It's
She
the
can
show and the
perform.
dancing. Exactly.
They can do that.
Right.
I mean, shit. That goes back to her days as one of the original fly girls on In Living Color.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
She's a dancer. Don't get me wrong. She can dance. She can perform. The singing, awful, terrible. But they're not interested in that. Like you say, it's the market. It's the image. Same thing. She can appeal. She's an international. She can appeal to all races and all ethnicities. Okay. Jamal Divine sounds like a 5%er. I know a couple of Jamal Divines. Stop. If your presence is felt in every room, places, do you attack these individuals or stand down or you're square and ignore? It's been rough on the hateration parts of my experience. I should show them. Yeah, see, the thing is, when you're tapping into a lot of that energy, right? If you don't feel like you're being attacked, you just ward that energy off, right? Obviously, you try and make sure you don't put yourself in situations that you don't even need to be around those type of people, right? Sometimes you can't avoid it, right? Sometimes situations manifest where you might have to do things. It could be work related, it could be personal, and sometimes you just can't avoid it. But if you're being attacked, how you stand firm on your square, you attack. Kill or be killed is the mentality. Take no prisoners, right? So my answer to that basically is depends on the situation. If you're not being attacked, but you're feeling the presence, you just do what you got to do to just swipe that bullshit to the side. But at all costs, you must protect yourself. Okay. Yeah, now you're naming some of the classics, Anthony. The Roots, Tribe Called Quest, Pete Rock, CL Smooth. Yeah, man. Yeah, 90s, like I say, yeah, we talk about that, me and Taj all the time on the Hip Hop Culture. The 90s was the age where, I mean, the 80s planted the seeds, right? The 80s were
late
that
80s
planted the seeds.
into the
Late
90s.
80s,
Yeah.
and then the 90s, that was the trendsetter. 90s to me was the best era in hip hop. And then it started to slowly shift, and we talk about this a lot. In the late 90s, going into the 2000s is when now you started to see an R&B artist on every. It's crazy. How many times have we talked about? I remember growing up in the 80s, even Luther Vandross, and I love Luther Vandross. There was artists like Luther Vandross saying, hip hop is not music, it's a fad, it's not gonna last. And I laugh now because now I don't think you can hear a so-called R&B record without a rapper doing some type of part on it, right?
Yeah, right.
It's
Exactly.
crazy.
Not even down to a TV commercial almost.
Right, and then you had a lot of the '90s going into 2000, the thug R&B groups like Jagged Edge. I love Jagged Edge.
Yeah.
Jagged Edge, they wanted to be rappers. They were rappers trapped in R&B bodies, right? Because they used to dress. Yeah, look how they used to dress, and you had Jodeci, right? Jodeci too. They had that hip hop vibe, but so they were all wrong because hip hop influenced R&B, and a lot of R&B. Even Anita Baker was saying stuff like that back in the day. I remember.
Yeah.
And they were wrong. I don't think R&B now can survive without hip hop. I believe hip hop would be able to survive without R&B.
Definitely.
But there's no more true R&B though. Or you have your old school classic R&B, but now even R&B, we talk about hip hop all the time. Now every R&B artist is on what I call auto tune. They don't sing; they talk sing. Go listen to every song that comes out now. These so-called most of them. I'm not saying all of them. To me, you might have opposition to this. I know he tries to be kind of thuggish hip hop, but he's the most talented, and he really has the best. Chris Brown is the most talented R&B artist out there now. If you go listen to his music and go listen to a lot of the shit that they don't play, I know he puts out, and I know he wants to. And if you go listen to his work, right? Even go back to when he first came on the scene before he got into all this thug shit. If he could have been, if he didn't want to connect with all this thug hip hop shit, he could have been the next R. Kelly. He could have blew up and been mainstream. He could have been the king of R&B.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
I believe that.
I mean, he still is. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. I think he's the most talented R&B singer out right now. But most of them, they're all on autotune. Yeah, They stay one tone. It's called auto tune. It keeps you in a safe key so you don't go out of key. And then you can mix the voice down. And it's all in frequency with the beat. And the beat is made in auto tune with the tone that they're singing in auto tune. Everyone is doing it.
Mhm.
So you don't even really have any true R&B artists that have come out in the last 5 years or so, right? There's a couple, right? You got a few that can, but I'm saying as a whole, most of them are on auto tune. It's pretty fucking
Yeah,
sad.
and the other thing is if you look at R&B, it's like very few of them are talking about like love situations. They're not talking about love anymore. You know what I mean? They're talking about relationship problems and what you
Oh
did to
God.
me and how you did this to me. And it's like the
Yeah,
whole
yeah. I
frequency just
fucked
changed, you know?
over. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
It's
No,
like again, it's like that we like how we talked before about that fight or flight, you know, that vibration that they're trying to keep you in. And it's like whether you're going through hip hop, you're going through R&B, whatever, it's like they still kind of like guiding you that way, you know. And if I remember when I was little, almost every R&B song on the radio, if it wasn't about a party, it was about being in love. It was about a
yep.
relationship. You know what I mean?
Relationship,
A
love,
successful one, or chasing somebody. You know?
or a serious, but they were telling the reality about a heartbreak.
Right,
You know,
right.
you go back to the all right, the 70s. They did the same thing to hip hop that they did to R&B. Because when you go into the 60s, right, mid to late 60s, there was a lot of conscious R&B, rhythm and blues
Hmm.
music. You
Right.
had the OJs, right? You had a lot of groups that were out. Bobby Womack. You had a lot of groups that were out, even though he came a little bit later, well, late 60s, early 70s. You look at, all of these groups that were out that were making good music. Then you get 60s, early 70s, Blue Magic, the Delphonics, the
Hmm.
Stylistics,
Hmm.
right? All of these groups. And when it was bringing people together, and then you had Earth, Wind, and Fire, you had groups. Then what did they do? They took the R&B and sabotaged it just like they did the hip hop.
True.
They did the same thing. All you got to do is go look at it. And you just explained it in a nutshell. Now it went from what you talked about to now. If it's not a female rapper or it's a female R&B singer rapping about how she got the wettest pussy and
Hmm.
how she's drops the baddest bitch in the world, spend a bag on me. How many songs can you make about that?
Right.
How many songs we
Exactly.
got to hear about? Got to get the bag, went shopping, bought up everything. I mean, it's just like Snorefest, right? Back then, when real artists had creative content, these artists ain't got no creative lyrical content. Every song is about their hood and how thug they are, and let me
Yeah.
open my mouth and show my gold teeth, and let me lift my chain up to the camera. Let me make it rain. Let me sip on some bottles of Moet. Let me have some half-clad naked girls jumping around in my video and smack some asses. It's the same shit. There's nothing original. You don't see anything that's original out there anymore.
Nothing.
And this
I
is
agree.
they do this intentionally. They promote this shit intentionally. And the sad thing about it is a lot of parents are just throwing their kids in front of the TV. And this is what's educating our children. And now you see these little kids. I mean, it's amazing. Some of the crazy shit I see out here with these little kids.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I
All
agree.
right, we got Ox. Oh, I see that's Alex. What's up, Alex? Anthony says Thailand occult is pretty interesting. From what I know, that's one area I got to explore a little more. I'll be honest with you. Not super up on that, but I've seen, read, explored a little bit of it, but I got to look into that more. Excuse me. All right, that was Taj's comment. You explained that earlier. What else? Anthony says, I can't wait to be able to shape shift and fly like a bird. Kitty Fire. There you go. That's the name I haven't seen. I'm currently working at changing the mantra lamb for the root chakra. If you don't mind, can you form your perspective, explain what goes on with that? I'm doing it because I feel off my axis. Now, it's a good question. You'll find, and we do some of that work in the Kundalini meditation and awakening class. We use a lot of the mantras. We've done exercises together as a group going through each one for each chakra system. So if you're changing it, the root is in that sound, the AM. You'll see in a lot of them, There's lam, ram, ham. They're all used, but the key in that vibration is the end portion. Now, maybe it's the consonant of that L sound that's not resonating with you. So if you find something to change it, I would just suggest you keep that like again, when you listen to how it vibrates, even in line with the out, like there's the and then when you're doing the on the chakras that you're talking about, it's lam, ham, ram. There's another one that's used that they don't talk about. Ra, ra, ma, om. So there's you have alternatives. I just think you need to keep it in line with the vibration of that that's what activates, because what we're doing when we're working with those chakras, those are exercises done to, I don't know if stimulate is the right word, but there's a misconception I want to clarify. You'll hear some people say your chakras are closed. That's not true. Okay. Can they be obstructed or blocked? Yes. And that's why sometimes you might feel off your axis. But also connect that too to see if there's also any physical ailments going on in the body. Be very educated, because each chakra specifically deals with specific organs and functions of your body, right? So that could also maybe feel why, you're not feeling completely rooted on your axis, right? So if it's the root chakra, right? I'm just using an example. Understand the vital organs that are connected to that. If it's the sacral chakra, right? Understand livers, kidney, heart, and the solar plexus chakra, circulation, blood flow, heart, all these organs, all of them, the thyroid, right? Very important gland that can really keep you off your axis, and understanding the effects of that, say with the throat chakra and other you need to know all that stuff, because it could have something en route to that, or just maybe the frequency of that mantra doesn't do it for you. Okay, so try some of those. I'm not sure if you're good.
If I could just add a thought to that, just speaking on myself personally, it could also depend on what work you're doing in that particular chakra, because sometimes it could be that it's not that you might be expecting to feel good, but you're feeling bad because that change is happening.
That's true. And I don't know if you're doing any Kundalini energy, like chakra, like we do a Kundalini meditation, and that's raising the serpent energy from the root of the crown. I'm sorry, from the base of the root chakra up to the crown. And if you are doing Kundalini work with your chakras, that can be very painful. And that's tying into what Taj is saying. That can have residual effects too. I'm not saying you are. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe there could be a connection, there too. All of that stuff is very important to understand. Okay, very important to understand. But try that. That might help. All right, what else? Louis says, yeah, Prince and Tina Marie fought like hell to get ownership of their rights. Yeah, Tina Marie, white chocolate. Tina Marie. Oh man, that shit. Goddamn. Tina Marie classic. Man, Rick James, wow, man, Fire and Desire, classic. That's Taj. That's R&B right there, man. Fire and Desire. You want to talk about an example, or Lenny Williams? Oh, come on, man.
Definitely.
If you want the definition of real R&B, man, or even Rick James and Smokey Robinson, Ebony Eyes, that's R&B, brother.
Yeah.
That's the R&B that we grew up. That's real R&B. Real R&B.
Yeah, for sure. I had the gift of being able to see Tina Marie perform. I think it was either the year before or 2 years before she passed, and there used to be this huge music festival that used to come like right down the street from my grandparents' house, and it was like right there on the stage right in front of me. I was like, man. And the energy that she gives off during the show, she used to go off during the show, was just amazing, and it's you don't see that today anymore,
No, because look, there's something There's something, and who was talking? I think we talked about that on one of the shows, and it was Big Daddy Kane. He was on was it? I think it was Math Hoffa, and Big Daddy Kane was explaining something you were just explaining. My second favorite MC. I was always, it was him and Rakim growing up as a kid. Like they were the two best at that time. But Big Daddy Kane broke something down about what you said about performing. He said, because he's been around a while, he said, performing back in the 80s and 90s is nothing like it is now. And he said, back in the 80s and 90s, they were engaged in the show. They participated, right? They were involved. It's like they were part of the performance. That's how locked in and engaged they were connected to the performance. He said, the problem is now, here's the problem. Look, he said, everybody's they're not really in tune with the performance and enjoy it. Everybody's got their phones on and they worry about filming.
Yeah.
And their energy is not in the show. And he's
Yeah.
like, this is what
You're
he
missing
said.
the moment. Yeah.
Everybody's more worried about filming it and not engaging in the experience.
Right. True.
And that was the difference in alignment with what you said. He
Facts.
said it used to be crazy back then performing. Like everybody was in unison and everybody was connected to the performance in general. Now, everybody goes to these shows and they're more worried about getting footage on their cell phone. It's crazy. So yeah,
Bro, I don't know. I don't know if I had mentioned this on one of the previous shows, but I was talking to a younger colleague of mine in music, and he was explaining to me how when you go to the club now, he's like, nobody in the club dances. He's like, they don't even really talk to each other. They just on their phones. And I'm like,
standing
what's
around
what's the
and
point?
looking like thugs, and I know. I know.
He's like, they don't go there to talk to girls. He's like, they don't go there to talk to women. They don't go there to dance. They just there. You know what I mean?
Listen,
It's
man.
nuts.
Remember when we used to go? We might not even had a drink the whole night. We'd be on the floor just having fun, having a ball. You go in there. That's why we went to clubs, to talk to girls, to dance, to have fun, to interact. That's a house party. Same thing. We didn't go to stand around and just be on. See, that's the problem. The phones have made people lethargic. And that's the thing I'm saying. It's disconnected them. It's made some people don't know how to naturally socialize anymore. There's no such thing as natural socializing because they think being on their cell phone is how you socialize with folks.
Right.
It's crazy, man. Ultra Inks says Ray had Plug 2 from De La Soul, passed away not too long ago. Yeah, rest in peace. Rest in power to Plug 2. I was actually, and they were from Eastern Long Island. They were from Amityville, which was not too far from where I grew up. And I actually met that whole group in 1997. Good bunch of dudes, man. Well respected, especially around the way. And like I talked about earlier, I give them credit for being patient, holding out. Because financially, all you got to remember, man, a lot of them guys that came up in the era, they weren't getting these contracts like these dudes now. They wasn't making the money that some were, but weren't making to the level of the money that some of these guys are making today. So
not at all.
Like I say, man, respect to De La Soul for being patient, understanding the business side of the music, and getting the real long-term bag, not the temporary bag, right? So they got a little security now that they can fall back on. And, man, people, if some of you guys know, if you're up on the music game, do you know how much power and money is in owning your masters? It's priceless. It's priceless. And they did the smart thing by holding out for a while, right? Worth his life. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Yeshua is referenced as the morning star in Revelations 22:16, and that same title is given to Lucifer in Isaiah 14, verse 12, title of the son of the morning star. Okay. Naomi says, greetings and infernal blessings from Australia. Wow. I don't know what time it is there. Let's see. Damn. I know you guys are, I think, way ahead of us, if I'm not mistaken, right? Australia time. Let's see what time it is in Australia. I don't know if she's still here. I'm always fascinated with that. Australia time. 2:30. Oh no, yeah, it's 2:34 in the afternoon.
Wow.
In Australia. Damn. I know. Is there
wild.
different time zones? Oh, yeah, that's slightly different time zones. Holy shit. Australia, Eastern Daylight Time. They got Norfolk Island Daylight Time. I don't know what the fuck that is. Australian Central Daylight Time. Damn, you guys are on like 4 different time zones. Australian. So it's 2:34 in GMT 1-1 time zone. In Norfolk Island Daylight Time, GMT 1-2, it's 3:34. In Australian Central Daylight Time, it's 2:04. In Australian Western Standard Time, it is 11:34. So they're like the United States. They have a couple different. This is interesting. Christmas Island Time, GMT 7. It is only 10:34 a.m.
Hmm.
So I don't know which time zone you live in. Maybe you typed it in on the bottom. You're in one of them, I would assume. It's a lot of time zones. I just educated myself on Australian time zone. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's different.
Vega Monster, my bad. You'll probably be off the sub once you reach this combo. How can you connect direction? Well, the Necronomicon, working with the Anunnaki, is considered in the occult. If you understand the history of the Anunnaki, and the Necronomicon is a very popular work in dealing with the Sumerian gods and goddesses of the Anunnaki pantheon, and they are considered extraterrestrial. So that would be in alignment with our path. There's some practitioners, and opening the gates of the Anunnaki is very interesting. We had a speaker at the Journey of the Black Adept conference who did a whole presentation on that, which was very good. So yeah, there's work out there. That would probably be the very well-known one that's used on the occult and the left-hand path. Now, since we're on the path to self-mastery, if you're connected with a certain path or information related to that, the most powerful will be the kind that you created based on your connection and understanding. Okay. So yeah. Worth is like said, what's your thoughts on Brother Panic? Well, for those that may or may not know, back a few years back, we actually did some work together that's still on his channel. Some people don't even know that. If you go on Panic's channel, go back to around that's still up there because people have emailed me. I send them links. It's still on his channel. We did some radio shows together. I used to have a radio show. Well, we did a radio show back in the day called Awakening Universal Minds, AUM, the abbreviation for the mantra. I did about 4 or 5 shows with Panic, and I for a couple of years we talked on and off over the phone, and then just for no particular reason, he started doing his thing, and he was growing more. And I'm going back to like 2015, 2016, and he was in that beginning stage. He was very big, but he was in that beginning stages of blowing up bigger. And I had just got on YouTube. I was kind of more newer on the YouTube platform. I'm not definitely a newbie in this community because I've been around a while. It's just you guys probably just haven't seen me until I came on YouTube. But believe me, I'm known in a lot of places. I'm very low key though. So we did some work together. We used to talk on the phone. So I have a lot of respect for him. And even when he transitioned on, I told people, I was a little annoyed where some people were posting videos for clickbait. That's why I didn't try to use it as clickbait and do it, a fake tribute video. The man's work speaks for itself. And I said that when he transitioned on. His legacy will always be here regardless, right? We understand what transitioning on into the spiritual realm represents. So physically, he may not be here. His channel is still there. There's certain people around still connected to him, some of his children, his family, but the legacy will always be there. So obviously, it's a no-brainer. We know Panic is one of the few influential. He told it like it was. He taught on the occult, and I used to like because he used to speak out against the Hoteppers. Right? He spoke his mind. So again, I have a connection and a history, small history with him for a short period of time. And like I said, we did some shows together. Alim Bey too. We all of us. We did a couple of shows on there too. It was 2. It was me, him, Alim Bey, and then he came on my podcast at the time about 3 or 4 times. He has them all. They're all on his channel. So there's that there's that natural respect there, right? So that's my thoughts. And even when, like I said, when he passed on, legacy speaks for itself. I know everybody was trying, oh, you give all these out. You don't need to give somebody out. Work speaks for itself. Now, what I am a little disappointed, and I saw this with Dr. Delbert Blair, I saw it with Panic. Okay. I think I'm not going to say any names. I don't think he was given, him and Delbert Blair were not given enough of acknowledgement and respect by certain individuals that they were influential in developing. Okay. That's just my opinion. They did it to Dr. I just don't think enough of, look, I know the reality. That's why you always hear me say at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit. Now you see why I say that. Because here today, gone tomorrow. I know that would apply to me or anybody else in here. People will act like when you're here, they love you today. And that's why I don't feed into a lot of that stuff. You know, I acknowledge people say, hey man, I love you. Cool. But I know at the end of the day, here today, gone tomorrow. And I just don't feel like, it's just my opinion, I don't feel like Panic or Dr. Delbert Blair got the due acknowledgement by certain platforms that should have. It's almost like they become forgotten real quick. That's just my opinion. And there's a lot of these conscious people, and you can figure it out. Dr. Delbert Blair was influential in a lot of those from that era. Trust me, up until now, some of them are still around, and they don't even really acknowledge him. He's almost become like a memory, right? You don't hear any of these platforms even outside of us in the occult when it comes to somebody like Panic, the same thing, right? Because what we do is not mainstream. I told you, they don't want to touch this. Them conscious movements ain't going to touch this because they don't know how to deal with this. They'll dibble and dabble in it. They'll make there's so many people out there claiming to be a cult, and they're about as occult as the Easter Bunny. Okay? That's the reality. They're mixing this fluffy new age shit with this conscious EFA shit, and then they're making these declarations that they're a cult left-hand path. That's not a cult left-hand path, people. Okay? So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Yeah, Ultra Instinct. Yeah, you just put it in there. And he got them old blog. Yeah, we did some blog talks. People don't know that. So there's some history, and that was around, I'm going to say 2014 and 15. I'm just estimating. But to validate what I'm saying, go to his channel, go back a few years. They're still posted. I'm sure some of you guys have the link. They're there. To confirm what I'm saying. We did a show one night. It was like 4 or 5 hours. We went in heavy on hip hop and music and a whole bunch of shit. It was a really good show. I would encourage people to go check it out. Again, he's got it on his platform. It's still there. All right, what else we got? Go ahead.
I don't know if that's the show I heard, but I mean that's how I found you, was through Panic. So
yeah, that's a lot of people found me through Panic. Yeah. I was doing them shows. Definitely, a lot of people came from and vice versa. A lot of people because that was technically on my radio show. A lot of people also connected with Panic, and vice versa. And that's why we used to do stuff like that back in the day. That's why you bring guests on your show. That's why I try to, when I go through periods, I try to bring guests on the show. And that's why you come on, promote your stuff.
right.
Your website, your social media pages. What you do. That's why we do this. And if you guys look at every show I do, I always tell people 3 or 4 times throughout the show, give you contact info. If you got any services or products you offer, promote them. That's why we do this. I mean, hey, one hand washes the other. You bring somebody on the show, at least you can let them do it. They're giving you the time. Same thing. If somebody invites me on, on their show, and I've done some shows here and there over the years, I would expect, me being allowed to promote. Hey, this is my YouTube, or hey, you can contact me here. I mean, that's just, to me, that's like common courtesy, right? So
Should be.
Yeah. All right. Vega Monster says, why do some occultists talk about removing the chakras while others talk about collapsing them onto one? I heard someone speak of how chakra work is a system designed to infect the consciousness. I mean, that's opinion and perspective. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying there. I don't know who's saying it, where it's coming from. That would all play a large part. I have heard that, though. I've even heard some people say that the chakras aren't real. They don't exist. So when it comes to things like that, because there's not going to be a book or a source or a concrete resource to go to validate any of that. this becomes a very hot topic of debate because a lot of this stuff is going to a lot of us are going to come to the realization of the reality is through our work. So I can only speak on stuff like that through my work. Now, regardless of all that said there, through my ritual work, I don't care if somebody says, well, that's just subjective. You can't confirm that, but it works for me. So I'm in the line. The chakras are real. I work with the chakras. I raise Kundalini energy through the chakras. Whether it's a figment of my imagination, but it's very real to me in my world and my universes. So somebody can go on the outside and come up with all this side information. It's not. I've seen people and read in books where they say it's not real. It doesn't exist. And I see the perspective that they're coming from, but that's their perspective, just as it's my perspective that it's real. And I'm not going to debate it further than that. All I need to know is the only important things to me, and the only person I need to convince it is myself. And it's very real to me in my work. That's all I care about. So yes, I can have that outer discussion, that, that external debate. But to me, it's, that's just depending on the perspective that the person's coming from. But I have heard that. So I'm not sure, who that is. Where I'm sure you read it somewhere, heard it somewhere, or saw it somewhere. So not sure offhand. Okay. Moose 6 says, new to the channel, welcome. Hothead Lewis. I didn't even see the I there. Hothead Lewis. I like that name. That's pretty cool. Oh, so there's too many readers right now. People tilting their video. You're gonna make billions. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much shit out there now. Yeah, well, Janika says, I know this was at Vega Monster. She's talking about Aleister Crowley. Wow, yeah, I mean, the Book of the Law. Aleister Crowley believes he channeled a being called Aloas, right? He believes while he was in Egypt that this entity Aloas channeled the Book of the Law to him. And I found that Michael Aquino of the Temple of Set kind of used that same concept to say how he received the Book of the Coming Forth by Night. And I spoke out about that in the Temple of Set. And that was one of the reasons why shit came to the head and I left, because I felt like they were worshiping Aquino. That was just my opinion. And I'm not down with worshiping. I don't worship nobody. It's just, I'm not bowing down to nothing to nobody. I'm not getting up under nobody's bullshit. Okay? When I look at the story of Michael Aquino and how he received the coming forth by night and how Set appeared to him and told him to break off from the Church of Satan and start the Temple of Set. Well, if I got up tomorrow and made that statement, was everybody supposed to follow me? You understand what I'm getting at? Now, there's also a thing nobody held, and I respect Bobby Hemmett. Bobby Hemmett also said in one of his videos that Alois was a black man on a spaceship coming back to Earth to save black people. And nobody talks about that. Go find it. I'm not making this shit up. Okay? So, yeah, Aleister Crowley was but he was heavily influenced by Egypt. And I'm telling you this from being initiated in OTO. A lot of the rituals, it's all, you dress in Egyptian attire in the rituals. The Gnostic Mass is very Egyptian in nature. They are heavily influenced. He was heavily influenced by ancient Egyptian entities for sure. And Masonry, because there's a lot of masonry, encoded Masonic, the degrees, there's grand hailing distress signs, there's all hand signals, signs, and all the degrees in OTO. So there's heavy influence of Freemasonry and ancient Egyptian teachings. And again, he believes when he was in ancient Egypt, he was channeled by a being, Aloas, that he received the Book of the Law. So yeah, I mean, that's there. No, I haven't seen the latest Most pick. Shamafia says, have you ever participated in an exorcism? Yes, and I'll briefly explain. I've been called to learn about this very interesting as the left-hand paper. The only in Apollo Mayembe, Ifa, and African tradition, I have assisted and participated with my godmother in 3 or 4 of them. Not for the faint of heart. That shit is real. And the one I will never forget was a young female. She had all types of, you don't even want to know. I'm not going to get into all that here, but the answer to your question, yes. But in the system of African spiritual, they do exorcisms, or what we would label exorcism. But in the sense of, say, like a Catholic, right, in Christianity or religion, no. But definitely in African traditional systems. And I'm sure, I don't know if Brother Louis here, aka Brother Angel, aka Brother Tata, trying to go under the undercover name, brother. Stop. I see you. Let me stop. I'm sure he has too. I'm sure he could probably tell you some stories. But yes, it's real. That stuff is real. And a wholehearted. Nobody can tell me it's not because of what I've seen and experienced. Possession and exorcism is fucking real. I don't care what anybody says. You know, you can say that's bullshit. It's fake. It's very real. All right, what else we got? Now, here's the truth. Anthony, did you hear about Mary J. Blige? Her studio albums, all right, lately, the last few years, she's another one with the complaint of how many dudes did her wrong. Gets a little annoying. But I love her when she first came out, her first 3-4 albums. I mean, and then some stuff in between. Now, here's the reality, in my opinion, of Mary. Her studio album, she sounds great. She sounds terrible live. Horrible. I've seen her live twice. She sounds like she needs a throat lozenge and the voice is just gone. It's very disappointing. I don't know if maybe you've seen her live. Maybe you caught her on a better day, but I caught her twice. And yeah, it was very disappointed. Couldn't hit notes, off key, out of breath. And it's the reverse with Mary J. Blige. As fine as she is, and she's fine as hell. To me, she looks even better now because she's like thick and licious now, even thicker. But she can't dance worth. You know how they be trolling her about her dancing. They've been trolling her for years. So she's got the reverse. She needs the vocal ability because she can't dance worth the lick of shit. But her studio albums are great. I love her music, you know, but live, very disappointed when I saw her live twice. It just was terrible. Out of key, out of breath, just horrible. It wasn't good. All right, what else we got? Yeah, I love Chris Brown. Chris Brown's awesome, man. All right. And I was like, well, but he did this to me. Listen, separate the message from the message. I got Chris Brown. I love Chris Brown. I got all his stuff on my digital shit. I mean, the man puts out a gang of music. I mean, his voice is soulful. It's got harmony to it, rhythm. I've seen him on other people's tracks where the track is trash until he gets on it and starts singing. He changes the whole. His voice can change the whole track, bro.
Yeah, that's true talent.
It's crazy, man. I mean, I've always been a Chris Brown fan. Even when he first came on the scene as a young kid, he was awesome, man. Awesome. I think he's the current king of R&B, in my opinion.
Yeah, reigning, right?
Yeah. Frank Sinatra. Yo, listen, man. Listen, I love Frank Sinatra. You're gonna laugh. My father was a Frank Sinatra head. Frank Sinatra's Christmas albums, off the chain, man. Frank had that voice, unique, that alto, right? Frank was a classic alto. Alto singers don't really exist no more. Not too many of them out there no more. But Frank was, yeah, man. Frank had his own sound. And then obviously growing up a Yankee fan, obviously there. Every time the Yankees win, they play New York, New York after every win, every home game. So we like knew the lyrics to that song at an early age. We used to sing it. Every game we went to as kids, once the game's over, we stayed in. If they win, we sing the whole entire song before we leave. So obviously that's the most song he's well known for. But even look at the latest shit he did with like Barbra Streisand. Look, I'm a music head. I listen to everything. You're like, damn, Baniti listens to Frank Sinatra. Hell yeah. Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Sammy, the Rat Pack. Come on, man. I told you, when I say I'm a music head, I'm a music head. I got it from my father because my father listened to all that stuff. All them groups I mentioned earlier, that's being influenced coming up. My father was a music head. So I inherited, my mother too, but she was more into the dancing. But my father was a music head. He had crates of vinyl. He played like on Sundays, playing records was like a ritual. I could, like, talking about it, I could smell the food being done cooking, see my mother, everybody straightening up, my father lighting the cigarette, sitting in the living room, cigarette in his mouth, and, you know, going through the vinyl, popping records on. That was a big thing as a kid, sitting around listening to, we did that, listening to records. You guys just don't know, man. You guys they don't know. Tell them, Taja, they don't know, man.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Days, man, you know.
Whole day doing that. You happy as can be. Happy as can be.
Happy as can be, man. And Some of my greatest memories are sitting in the living room watching my mother and father dance together. That they did that. They used to dance together around the house. They came up in the doo-wop era. My father was big doo-wop head. And I don't know if you guys know what doo-wop music is, street calling the Harmony Street singing doo-wop music, Little Anthony and the Imperials, music like that. There was a whole doo-wop was like the rap genre of R&B at that time. It was called doo-wop. And that's what they grew up on. They used to go to all the hops and, all that shit you used to see back in the day with them groups. But I remember me and my son, we used to sit on the couch and then we used to get up and dance with them. They used to grab us. You don't forget stuff like that as a kid, man. And again, don't get me wrong. I was fortunate. I grew up which doesn't really happen. I was very fortunate. Me and my 3 sisters, we grew up in a 2-parent household where there was a lot of love. And I think that had a great effect on me, and it's part of made me who I am today, because I saw that love. I know what a real relationship is supposed to be like, because they stayed married to the very end, till they both were gone, and that doesn't happen. And when it does, and if you're somebody that's in that situation, embrace it, because it's not something that happens. Nowadays, what is it like? What? 1 or 2 out of 3 of every marriage fails. Isn't it something like that stat now? It's crazy. It's crazy, man. But yeah, love Frank.
I did it my way.
Yeah, did it my way. Elvis, you know what? My father, he wasn't a huge Elvis head. He had some Elvis records, but we know the story with Elvis. He took a lot of that shit. Chuck Berry was the ghostwriter. We found out later, right? You got to remember, during them times, a lot, even the black artists, they didn't put black faces on the album covers. They would put white faces on there because of all the segregation that was going on. But we know that now that not Elvis, his people stole a lot of Chuck stuff, Chuck Berry. And but yes, Elvis though was built into an icon. A lot of people don't know Elvis made a lot of movies too. I remember my mom was big on watching the Elvis movies, Blue Hawaii. There's a couple of them. I tell you, I'm a music head. There's no genre you're going to go into. Go into classical music. I'll talk to you about some classical music. When I say I like music, I like music. I listen to all that shit. All right, what else we got? Boy, this is a long name. Urban, Alchemistic, HPIC, at the Dexter Brujas. True, no one dances. They just stand. And that was to your comment earlier at the club. It's true. Yeah. She said, but when the phone light come on, they come alive. Oh, listen, man. Speaking of that Snapchat, IG shit, I mean, when I go to the gym, right, and I see it all the time. That's so bad. I don't know if I can contain it anymore. I'm going to have to go up. There's this one chick that's always over by the mirror with the weights, and she's just taking pictures all the time. It's fucking annoying. She posing. But that's the world we live in now. The superficial realm of artificial intelligence called social media. That's what people do. And it's crazy, because if you're going to a party and there's dancing, you're not like Big Daddy Kane was saying with the performing. You're not engaged in the experience. You're artificially and robotically trying to control the spirit. You're more worried about taking pictures and posting it to your IG to show people you're somewhere, and you're technically not having the fun or the experience you're claiming that you're probably putting in the caption of the picture that you're sending on IG. Right? If I go to a place like that, I'm not even on my phone. I don't even look. I get it's a different generation, but when I'm going to a place like that, even when I go to a restaurant, I'm not dealing with that. Because how many times I said before, you come into a restaurant, I watch family of 4, 5, 6 come in, and they all sit down, and the first thing they do, nobody's talking to each other. Whole family at a table, and nobody's talking to each other. They're all on this. That's how deep this programming is. And that's sad. You're at a fun event like that, there's music playing, party. You're supposed to be socializing, talking with people, interacting. But people are socially awkward nowadays. You can't even do that with certain people because it's awkward now. Why? Because they don't know how to interact, because they never were taught. That's why we have to be careful with this generation of kids now. They're socially awkward. Remember, we grew up in a time where we were told, go outside and play. They don't know what that means. We went outside, we played hide and seek. We rode our big wheels, our bicycles. We were all over the neighborhood. We played run, catch, and kiss. We were running bases, dodgeball, stickball in the street, football, basketball. This is what we did. We were creative, active kids. These kids now want to play Xbox. They want to just be on their tablet. They just want to be on the phone. That's their entertainment. See, that's the curse of it. We didn't have that. We had to entertain ourselves. This is what we did. We kept busy. Look, in the summertime, find any one of us in the house. When there was no school, it was summer break. As soon as the sun came up, we were out from sunrise to sunset. And we was everywhere. I know it was a different time. You can't do that now. I mean, I can't even imagine my young kid doing what I used to do as a kid. There's no way. We used to roam the whole neighborhood. We go anywhere we want. We ain't worried about anything happening to us. I get it. It's a different time. You can't do that shit now. But it's fucking up the kids. It's crazy because every time, even though I've been here in South Florida now since 2014, and I always go back and forth. I'm back in New York a couple times a year. The more and more I go every year. And actually, when I go up to Providence, because it's only 2 hours away, my sister's coming. I'm gonna head to New York for a day or two. It's just I see less and less kids playing in the streets. Every time I go home and I go through the neighborhood, you don't see kids out on the street playing like we used to. I'm not saying you don't. You see some, but we used to have block parties. I don't even know if they do block parties. I don't see block parties like that no more. It's just you don't see it. You don't see kids out on the street playing football like we used to. You don't see as many kids riding their bikes as you used to.
Hey, remember the commercials they used to come on around 10 o'clock at night? They'd be like, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock. Or
A
there was
public
that
service
one,
announcement.
or this was the one. Yeah. No, I remember that one clear as day. And it was this one. It's 6 o'clock. Did you do your homework today? Like, fuck. That was my mother's kid. No, that was, come on, every time at dinner time. Listen, even though both of my parents worked, your homework had to be done before dinner or before you went outside to play. Remember, you used to come home and change and put your play clothes on. You couldn't go outside in your school clothes. Remember that?
Yeah,
you
I
have to
remember
come
that.
home and your mom said, you take your school clothes off. Don't go outside and play in your school clothes. You have to take your school clothes off and put on your play clothes. That's how it was, man.
Yeah.
And like I said before in other videos, you sat down and you ate at the table as a family. No TV. You couldn't have the TV on in my house when you ate dinner. My father smacked the shit out of you. Phone rang. No, literally. The phone rang. You didn't pick the phone up.
Nah.
We had a wall rotary phone, right? Remember the rotary phones with the dial, right? In my mother's bedroom, they had a push phone, the push button. We had two phones in the house. We had a wall phone on the kitchen, and we had one phone in my mother's bedroom. That was it. And you couldn't be on that motherfucker. You couldn't be on it. And if that phone rang while we were eating dinner, nobody could pick that shit up. And then my father, who's calling the house at dinner time? You tell your friends, don't call here at dinner time. That's how, there's no family unit, bro. That's why these kids are fucked up now. See, we did everything back in the day as a family. You sat down, you ate dinner as a family together. You watched TV. We had one TV in the fucking house. And you watched what my father watched. And there was everybody after dinner would go in the living room. Whatever my father watched, that's what everybody watched. And then my parents had a small little 13-inch black and white in the bedroom on a TV stand. That was it. We had no TVs in the room. These kids now want to eat. Everybody want to eat something different. They want to go in the room and watch TV and be on it. No, you sat the fuck down. You ate at the table. And then guess what? When dinner was over, your ass had to clean up. You had to clear the table, wash the dishes, put them up. Shit is gone, bro. That's the problem. It's easy to see what the problem is. These kids aren't taught no responsibility. We made our own bed. You couldn't get up in the morning and leave. You had to leave. My mother would say, dude, we got a maid around here. You better get your ass in there and make that bed before I stick my foot in your ass. That's how she used to talk to you. You don't have that no more. These kids.
No, you don't. You don't.
You don't have it no more, bro.
No.
My mother,
Definitely
I remember a couple times I would be leaving for school. She'd go, hey, where you going? I'd be like, what? Get back in there and make your bed before you leave the house. She said, we ain't got no maid around here. That's what she used to say. And then if you didn't like what was cooked for dinner, she'd say, take your ass to bed on a hobo or hungry. And your ass would have to go to bed if you didn't like it. I don't like that. You had a choice. That's just the way it was, man. And it should be like that. Okay, I won't do that shit for my kids. We all eat the same shit. You don't want to eat? And my oldest son will tell you. I tell him that from day one when he started that shit as a young kid. And guess what? Find yourself a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich in there or something. You don't want to eat the fuck we eating. You don't eat. That's how it works. The good old days. Let me stop. Okay, what else we got? Dudes be on that 3-6 side too. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, like Louis said, the technology was created to bring. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some very upside to this technology. We're using it right now. The great thing is we didn't have this ability back in the day. We all can be in a platform like this together at one time in one moment. Now, that's a great thing. So I've said this before too. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of upside. There's a lot of great things to have in this technology. But when we use it for nonsense, for gossiping and slandering and bullying and just all this other psychological bullshit and programming, that's when it becomes a toxic thing. And it's a two-edged sword, the internet and social media. It's a two-edged sword. It's toxic and uplifting at the same time, right? So it's just what I'm essentially just saying is it's just how you use it. And I'm only on here, and like I say, I don't engage in any public. I have a private Facebook, personal, just I communicate with family and people out of state. I'm not interested in being on Facebook like that. And then I have my Facebook page for the channel. That's it. I only use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok for the platform. So to me, it's about how you use it. I just can't stand these people that get on Facebook and Instagram and tell everybody their fucking business. Like, do you have to announce to everybody every time you got into a fight with your wife or husband? You have to announce to everybody, just left the store and bought this, headed to here. Do we need to, just woke up? I don't give a fuck. Like, do people really care? And it's amazing how you got social media influencers and all they doing is just recording their life. And I guess people are, I don't know, engaged in this bullshit. I mean, I'm not interested.
But let's not even say recording their lives. They're recording moments
Or
in
staging
their
moments.
life. Staged moments in their life.
That
Because
too.
people get it messed up and they think, yeah, well, these people are living like this and I'm not living like that. But really, they're not either.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Let's see if we can come through a few more of these. Yeah, I'm just getting there. Yeah, I heard Method Man talking about it too. Yeah, he's addressed and he did a good segment on Math Hoffa too, where he was dropping a lot of jewels. I'm telling you, if you really want to get low down, where artists really and one of the best episodes was when Ed Lover was on there. Ed Lover dropped jewels, man. Go catch the episode he did a few months back. I think it was late 2023. It was around the holidays, or somewhere between like Thanksgiving and Christmas. He did a really good segment on Math Hoffa where he was dropping jewels, man. A lot of stuff we're talking about now. And he talked about why the artists are so lethargic in the mumble rap. He said, because a lot of them are on Percocets and Mollies. They're taking those drugs that make them lethargic, and they sound lethargic, and they do. Okay, I just look, no offense, man. Like, I don't know how anybody can listen to that dude Future. He sounds like he got Down syndrome. And I'm just can't even believe they classify that shit as rap music. Like, that's not rap music to me. That's not MCing. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know, what do they call it? Trap music, mumble crap. I don't know what the fuck they call it. I'm sorry, it's just trash to me. I can't. I tried. I can't. I started feeling like, I really started feeling like I was getting Down syndrome as I started listening to it. I was like, God damn, I feel like I'm getting Down syndrome. This is terrible, man. It's fucking horrible.
That is funny as hell.
Horrible, man. Horrible shit. When I first started working on my Bree says, yeah, Bree, I know we should have a call coming up, so we're gonna have to talk, Bree. When I first started working on my root chakra, I felt so off. Different emotions and sensations come up when working with a particular chakra. Chakra Healing with Shadow Work is a good book. Now, when that root chakra is out of whack, it's usually a lot of things in your mundane life are out of whack. Your relationships, family, Could be physical stuff going on with your health. It's usually a lot of things in the physical month because the root's grounded in that, right? That's part of it. So a lot of things in your life overall can make you feel out of whack. So yeah, that definitely could be. Ghost Panda 22 says, "Damn, I'm a needy virgin, but I look up to him from a distance." Well, I appreciate that. Worth his life. I knew that was you. I recognize your voice. I guess you're talking about the panic classes. Yeah. I can relate to that comment you saying that Panic said he read to his eye. I've done that too, where I could barely keep my eyes open. I can relate. Sometimes you be so locked in. But you know what happens? I call them the sleep demons. They come for you. How many of you set out to read a book? It happens to all of us. You ever notice you're wide awake, bushy eyed? As soon as you start reading the book, you start getting sleepy? That happens to a lot of us, right?
Yeah,
Am I
definitely.
making this shit up? I
Not at
call them
all.
the sleep demons coming to attack you. It's like they
Not at
know you're
all.
getting ready to educate yourself and they're trying to put you to sleep. I've done that. Been there. I get it. Haunted Lavender 222 says, "Hey man, I'm so happy I found your channel. I've been watching a lot of your videos. Appreciate your wisdom. Much love from Canada." I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh,
Janika.
shout out to Louis F. I didn't respond in the chat because I couldn't, bro. But
Yeah, brother Louis in here.
yeah, I didn't know you were still on, so I just wanted to let you know I seen it.
Yeah. Brother Louis in here. He texted me. Yeah, he's in here. Yeah, you know, I was still thinking about the person from Canada. Remember Maestro Fresh West from Canada, the rapper?
Yeah,
Maestro Fresh West. That was actually a
yeah,
pretty good album. That came out like 93.
yeah.
He was part of that. Yeah, man. Maestro Fresh West. To me, he was probably the first well-known Canadian rapper. You would have thought he was
He-
from New York, though. You wouldn't even
I,
know.
yeah, that's true. I think you're right about that.
And the name of the album was Nah, This Kid Can't Be from Canada. That was the name of the album. That was the
Right,
name of the
right,
album. Well, look, I'm
right.
not making this shit up. Maestro Fresh West. He was pretty good too. Makes me wonder what happened to Maestro, man. I wonder if he's still around. Anyway,
Remember,
man.
you have a lot of artists just pop out of nowhere like that sometimes. Though back then,
Yeah, he was hot for a minute in the early to mid 90s. I think he put out, I know that album. I think there was one more. I think he was like 2 albums and then you never heard from him after that. He just kind of went ghost. There was another dude that was, I can't think of his name. There was another dude, part of his clique was pretty solid, but the name's not coming to me. He was part of that Canada clique at that time.
mm.
Janika says, I've addressed it. What are your thoughts on the EA code? And I read a little of his work on Baneful Magic. People have really told me to avoid stuff. Again, you make that conclusion yourself, but I will tell you, if people are telling you that, they're pretty accurate with that. I mean, but find out for yourself if you're uncertain. I just think it's just my opinion. It's not to be judgmental, but I'm gonna call for it. It's just like I know there's as many people that like me. There's probably many people that don't feel what I do, and I understand it. That's just part of this doing what you do. I just think a lot of his stuff is gimmicky. I can tell you the shit he did on Voodoo was bullshit. The stuff he tried to do on African spirituality was trash. And then he brought that one. I saw he tried to bring some black dude who looked like a straight Uncle Tom trying to co-sign on his shit. It was just real suspect and fishy to me, some of his stuff. I think what turned me off, then I saw some video he did with some ritual with Lucifer in the desert. It just was real corny to me. Yeah, I just wasn't feeling it. And again, there's a lot of people who have said what you described in your comment there. But if you need to, just I think if you read, you might there's probably a lot of people that do feel his work, right? Because obviously, I think he's still around doing stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel his work that are connected to him. They get a lot out of it. I just wasn't feeling it, man. Just not my cup of tea, as they say. But again, that's up to each individual to make their choice. Now, again, I don't know him. I don't have anything against him. Just like somebody might see my work and don't really care for it or don't like it or don't like it at all. But I understand that's the reality. It happens. But that's my thoughts. If you want my honest thoughts, I'm not really feeling it. What else we got? Anthony says, hopefully Panic learned enough about the afterlife. He was smart enough to navigate those realms and blast through and not reincarnate. Yeah, well, yes, I'm sure. Let's see, we got Raven in the room. She's awake.
What up, Rave?
Yeah, Louis still here. Worth his life. Well, real briefly, not to get in detail, possession experience usually is determined, like in this, the one case I will share a little with you about. It was a girl, and to my recollection, she was probably late teens, early 20s. She was being pimped out by a pimp. She was into all type of sexual deviancy shit. She was selling drugs, doing drugs. This dude really had a grip on her, and it turns out that this dude, the so-called pimp, and the mother had brought her to us. The so-called pimp that was pimping her out, he had some connections to, like black magic and occult in the African traditions. So the mom bring her with us, and all the signs are there. When she's with the mom, really quiet. You could just feel her energy. You could tell I remember in that first session, I'll never forget, this wasn't the actual exorcism, but this was when the mother first brought her. And there was me, my godmother, and two other people there that were all part of this. And you could just feel the spirit. And she was just quiet, but it was a weird, eerie quiet. Wasn't saying much. The mother was telling us everything. Had this looking like you almost felt there was something else inside her looking out at you. That's how fucked up it felt. Like you knew. We all knew, and we were just waiting. So after consulting, we had set up to do the actual rite, and you could tell she was getting a little annoyed. So we started getting a little reaction. We set it up. And then when we bring her, the night that they actually brought her, man, some of that shit you see in the movies, just the bizarre shit that she said, the superhuman strength that she had, the shit she was doing with her tongue. When I tell you the shit she was doing with her tongue, just some outlandish shit. And then she crawled. The thing that wigged me out the worst was she got on the floor, like almost like a serpent would move sideways to side, where she moved like lightning quick. It was fucking bizarre. So once what was done, that activated, I guess you can say, to bring that spirit out, and then man, the violent profanity, the shit she was, like hearing the octave in her voice change and the shit that she was saying was crazy. And like I say, man, it's just something that you see, experience, that you never forget. And it wasn't a pleasant thing to witness and be a part of. There were some battle scars from that. I can tell you that it's not what you really see in the movies. It's physical work too. But long story short, after that session and coming back a couple of times to my godmother for, I guess you can say, future treatment, and then some work was quote unquote done on the pimp to make sure he didn't grab a hold on. She just basically got caught up in a bad situation. She was out and about in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she had some predator, approached her and tried to sell her some pipe dream, and then started pimping her out, sex, and keeping her high on drugs all the time. She was high on drugs, selling drugs, and she was pimping herself out for him, And he was doing work on her to control. Apparently, that was his thing. Anyway, it's only so much of it you can put into words. It's very graphic. It's very vulgar. A lot of it's when I say violent, I'm not just talking about physically violent, spiritually violent. I think the most thing that stuff didn't really bother me none. I think the worst thing that bothered me, infected me, was the first session when she was silent, but I felt, I could see and feel. And as I talk about it now, I get goosebumps. That affected me more because I could see the entity in her looking outside. It wasn't her sitting, it was her physically sitting there, but I can feel the presence of what was inside of her looking out at us. That affected me more than everything else after that. Because that's how deep this shit can be, So, but yeah, don't like to get into too much of that there. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay. Yeah, like Louis said, for us in the arts, it's a regular, and don't be fooled by Louis F. He's going under that undercover name, Louis F. You got a seasoned vet in here that goes back even further than me. He just very low key, and I'm sure we don't want to turn it into that. I'm sure like he said, it's part of the. I'm sure he's been involved in a lot of that, and it's very normal thing, say in Santeria, Ifa, or Paolo, for somebody to bring a whether it's a Palero, whether it's a Madrino or a Padrino or a high priest, or it's a very common thing. You don't realize how common it is that they'll now sometimes it's bullshit, and I'm sure Louis will tell you that too. Sometimes they might think they're bringing you somebody that's possessed, and sometimes that's not the case. It could be a psychological thing, or it's bullshit, or it's something else. But I can tell you this: it happens a lot more than you think, especially in those systems. I can tell you, I can remember countless amount of times, recollect many times people came to my godmother with children or family members or friends or people they were trying to help that they thought were possessed by quote unquote evil spirits. It's very easy to detect. Usually it's behavior. And when you examine them, how you really know is they do, like you say, that like you hear that saying, eyes are tunnel visions to the soul. When you look into the eyes, there's a way you examine them when they bring them to you. You examine their entire body from head to toe. You look at every aspect, nook and cranny of their face. Sometimes you look for different shifts in the face. You look at the forehead. The eyes are usually the key. Sometimes here's one trait that we're trained to always look at. Usually one eye is higher or lower than the other. That's usually a telltale sign. And sometimes it's very noticeable momentarily at certain times. So this is why my godmother it was crazy how she would do it. She would sit down there and just be silent. And she might just stare at the person for minutes in silence because she was studying them and watching for movement. So it's a process. The examination process is even more, and to me, more intense because when all the crazy shit starts happening, it's like and once it starts happening, like but it's just that all that tenseness before is there. It's deep tension, man. It's thick. But I learned a lot from her, watching how she operated, and even though I'm not in that type of system anymore like that, 100%, I will say this: I had the utmost respect to this day. I always have respect for her, because she definitely knows what she's doing when it comes to working with spirits, and I learned a lot from her. So I would never disrespect her. I always have the utmost respect for her. Okay, what else we got? All right, I'm just gonna kind of breeze through these. I'm not gonna be able to get to all these. Uh, Urban says, "Do the guardian angels still exist?" Curtis Silva, they're still out there. Um, you do have some of that. It's not to the level it used to be. Um, Neighborhood watch groups, like I know. Look, we were the neighborhood watch, right? When you had neighborhoods back then, there was real neighborhoods. So I know what you're talking about. We policed out. We didn't rely on now we had a different relationship with the police. One as fucked up as it is today. There was some good police back then you can confide in. Don't get me wrong, you still had your corrupt police back then. And people act like that shit isn't new. It's just now with social media, Facebook, and phones and cameras, it's just you see it in real time. People act like this shit ain't new. This shit was going on back in the 70s and the 80s. We saw this shit. But we policed our own neighborhoods. Like neighborhoods we grew up in, if you did something wrong, your neighbors could whoop your ass. They had the authority to do it. And then you got home, you got another ass whooping if you acted up. That's how it was back then. But there was nothing that went on in my neighborhood that was fucked up that nobody didn't know about and handled. Like one thing I never forget, this is a 100% true story. There used to be this, they called him Big Jimmy. I'll never forget it, Big Jimmy. But Big Jimmy at that time, he was probably early teens, maybe very young, 20, 21. He always used to hit on the young teenage girls, like 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. He was very creepy, right? He was very big for his age, tall. Now, I'm not talking about like fat and obese. He was just a big, young guy / kid, young adult. And I remember at the time I was small. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old. And he was harassing my older sister. And my older sister, Jean, I'll never forget. Well, my father found out about it. Okay. Well, all I can tell you is this: my father, my uncle, my neighbor across the street, all I can tell you is this: they paid Big Jimmy a visit and nobody ever saw Big Jimmy again. Just let me put it that way. I'm not going to even get into the specifics. That's how stuff was handled back then. Okay. The neighborhood was like a sanctum. It was a sanctum. And if you violated the code and the rules of the neighborhood, you had to be dealt with. It was more like, yo, this is our sanctum. You bring any bullshit in here, we're going to deal with it. That's how neighborhoods stayed real neighborhoods back in the day. Everything. And this is why we were able to roam the streets as young kids. I'm 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm roaming blocks. I'm all over the neighborhood on my bike, everywhere. Everybody knows each other. Hey, how you doing? You go into the store. We know all the shop owners. We know everybody because everybody looked out for everybody. That's how strong neighborhoods were like that in New York. I'm sure other places too, back in them days. That's how it was. There was fucked up neighborhoods, but then there was real neighborhoods that were family orientated. Neighbors looked out. Like I said, I couldn't tell you today. I'm a homeowner in this neighborhood since 2015. I couldn't tell you every name of I know a couple of my neighbors. It's not like that no more. Back then, I can tell you every neighbor on both sides of my street and most of them the next block over. That's how everybody knew everybody. It's not like that now. Now, shit.
Everybody knew everybody's kids too.
Everybody knew everybody. But remember back in the day, your neighbor, sometimes somebody like maybe 2 blocks away, they knew you, they were driving by and they just knock on the door. Hey man, I'm just knocking on the door to see how everybody's doing, how the kids are doing. They don't do that shit no more.
Nah, not at all.
That's how they used to do it. Just came by to see how the kids were doing. They don't do that shit no more.
No, that's true.
But we see the reasons why. Look at because of how they're trying to control every facet of our life, how we think, how we eat. I might have to change the title of this video, man. I don't know what to call this video now. Because that title is limited to what we're talking about. I gotta come up with a new title. I don't know what the fuck to call this video. But yeah, but anyway. But yeah, it exists to your question, Urban Alchemistic for short, or Dexter of the Brew House, long name. It exists, but very rare.
I think the last time I saw them might have been in where was I at? In Trenton, I believe, in like 2021. A
Right.
small group of them.
Yeah, no, I know they still exist in New York, in certain areas, but yeah, it's just it's man. Look, I feel like I start sounding like my father, man. Shit is getting fucked up out here, man. It's scary what this upcoming generation. I got a 10-year-old. Like I don't even know what this world's gonna look like when he turns 15 years from now. It's fucking scary. Like what are we turning them over to? You know? And it is up to us because the only way they're gonna turn out right, we gotta make sure we're giving it to them the correct way. So they, it's brutal. It's pretty rough right now. All right, what's going on, Kiona? All right. Yeah, Curtis Silva. They actually just did. There's a new documentary out on him. It's either on Amazon Prime or Netflix on his story and the Guardian Angels. I started to watch it. It interested me a little. I kind of fell asleep. I got to pick up where I left off. Oh, the fried bologna struggle. Oh yeah, man. What about mayonnaise and lettuce sandwiches?
We about to get back on the food.
Yeah, man. Boy, I'm telling you, how many times I came home and made a mayonnaise and lettuce sandwich?
Basil's mayonnaise and crumble chips from the bottom of the bag.
Crumble chips at the bottom of the bag. Yeah, man.
with the ends of the bread.
We used to call it the coolie, eating the butt of the bread. I used to hate the end of the bread, man. But when you were hungry,
Yeah.
shit, listen, man, all that shit, man. The fried bologna. I remember my boy Nafis used to use the iron Literally use an
Damn.
iron that you iron clothes with. And
Wow.
yeah, man, it's steaming fucking bologna, which is crazy. That got to be so unhealthy. And look, think of the shit we did. You talk about COVID. We drank hose water. Think about we used to drink water from the garden hose.
Yeah.
We used to drink
Yeah.
tap water. We didn't grow up with no bottled water.
Not at
Just
all.
think about all the fucking toxic shit we used to eat and grow. We should be dead, technically.
Yeah, technically.
Look at all the fucking toxic candy we ate growing up. Gobstoppers, now and later, bubblegum
Lemon
cigarettes,
heads. Lemon heads.
lemon
Yeah,
heads. I
yeah,
mean, we ate
bubblegum
the
cigarettes, exactly.
that's basically diabetes in a box, bro. How is it Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah, right.
Think about how much of that powdered Kool-Aid shit we used to drink growing up.
Bro, I was just telling somebody this the other day, man. My grandma used to make sweet tea every day. She put like a
Oh, the
half a
iced tea.
bag of
Oh, the powdered iced
she put
tea. Oh,
a half a bag of sugar in that thing. And I
listen,
drank
man.
that more than water.
We grew up on that powdered iced tea shit and that Kool-Aid. And then the bottle of soda, that was like for dinner. That was
Yeah.
special time. We put it this way, we couldn't even open up a bottle of soda like in the summertime. If my parents was at work, we had to call my mother at work to get permission to open a bottle of soda, bro. And I can't make this shit up. My mother would make that Kool-Aid shit. You guys drink that Kool-Aid shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yo, we should be dead, bro. The shit we used to eat growing up, man.
Considering all the shit, you right, bro.
Man, I think about the crazy
You remember
shit.
those straws? Remember the straws that used to come with the sugar inside of them?
Oh my God, you just open it and just dump the sugar in your mouth. What the fuck was that? What about the dipsticks? The white, you stick the white
too.
stick,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you
to eat the
open the
sugar
pouch
out.
and you just dip this. You're dipping a sugar stick into a pile of sugar, and you just eating it. And think how they programming bubblegum cigarettes. Remember, you used to go.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Bubblegum cigarettes, man. We should try to buy because we want to imitate the adults smoking. But you got to remember, back then, my father and my parents could sing it too. We could buy cigarettes as a kid. They didn't ask us for no ID.
Nah.
My father would run to the corner store, get me a pack of cigarettes.
Yep.
You used to run down there. You're 9, 10 years old. You buying cigarettes for your parents. That's the way it was back then, man.
Yeah.
It was. They wasn't checking for no IDs and shit. Yeah,
That's
man.
true.
It's a whole different era, bro.
It's crazy.
Urban Alchemist said, you know what that? Wish sandwiches. That's what them shits were. That's what them wish sandwiches were, boy. You wish you had some meat on that motherfucker. That shit is hilarious. Yeah, that's what it was. Man.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, boy, you get a head of lettuce, some mayonnaise. Hey, you might get lucky. There might be some tomato in that motherfucker, man. You might get lucky. Oh, I done did the lettuce and mayonnaise sandwiches plenty of times, man. Yeah, man. But you know what, man? Hey, as long as you had love in the household, we got by, man. You know, one thing my parents always did, like I told you guys before in the prayer, I didn't know we were poor until I got older. I really didn't. I think I realized it when the first time when my mother pulled out food stamps. And back then there was no EBT card. It was a book and it looked like money. And I thought it was Monopoly money. I was like, that looks like Monopoly money. But I didn't know we was poor until I got older, because my mother did a good job of just doing what she had to do. Same thing with my father. You know, I didn't know we go into Pathmark, ShopRite. I see her pull out the food stamps, and I used to call it funny money. I was like, mommy's paying for the food with the funny money. You know, I didn't know.
Did they buy the black and white, no frills, everything?
Oh, yo, fucking. Let me tell you something, man. Pathmark. It was literally called No Frills in a white and black box, like you said. And the shit would say no frills, like
flakes of corn and
flakes of corn, yeah.
Rice pops and shit like
rice
that.
Pops, yeah. They just had you get all the bootleg shit. And then, I'm telling you, Pathmark and ShopRite back in the day had the 3-liter joints of soda, 3 liter. Do they still make them shits? I don't even know if they do.
I don't even know.
Yo, but I'm gonna tell you this straight up, talking about shit. The best soda back in the day when that shit was cold was RC Cola. I don't know what the fuck was in that. But on a hot summer day, there was nothing like. And back in the day, they used to sell the little 25-cent joints in the glass bottle. But there was nothing like back in the day as a kid on a hot summer day. And we used to have this spot right on the corner, Joe's Deli. I don't know if it was his refrigerator, But them things used to be, man, they used to hit you right, man. And I could talk about it now and almost taste it. Them shits used to hit you right. I used to go there on like in the summertime in the morning, get one of them, and that real bacon, egg, and cheese on that buttered roll. The real like deli roll, man. That shit just hit you right, bro. I mean, I can't even put it in words, man. Yeah, just all them things we grew up on, man. Yeah, no frills, man. No frills. Yeah, you got the bootleg cereal. You get the snap contest for people. That's why your mom buy the bootlegs. You don't even get real cereal in your house.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, man. That's how it used to be back in the day. Hey, shit.
That's
What else we got?
wild.
Yeah. Yeah, wish I had a piece of meat in the middle. That's what them shits was called. Sandwiches. Yeah, I had a lot of those, man. You convince yourself that's good. That ain't that bad. It ain't, that shit was just air. That's what it was like eating air. You try to come up with all creative ways, though, right? All types of creative ways to dress that shit up. Yeah, it worked. Well, I got one for you, man. I don't know if you guys remember Fluff. You guys remember Fluff? Anybody remember
Yeah,
Fluff?
yeah,
That
yeah,
white shit used to just,
yeah.
I
The
think they
white
still make it.
marshmallow shit. Yeah.
That white marshmallow shit. Yo, we used to eat that had to be some toxic shit right there. That had to be like plastic. I don't know what the fuck that was. Like, how are we not dead? Like, how are we still here? And just the water alone, just look how dependent we become on bottled water. And I think about my whole entire life. We probably didn't start drinking bottled water to what? When did bottled water become a thing? 90s, late 90s, early 2000s? Am I off? When did we
Probably,
stop
yeah.
drinking?
Probably
Yeah.
late 90s. Yeah.
Shit. Anytime we wanted water, if we were in the house, you just went to the cabinet, grabbed a cup,
Yep.
hit the sink, tap water. That was your water back in the
Yep.
day. If you were
And when it
outside,
was,
it was too hot, you didn't want
yeah,
to go inside, garden
if it
hose.
was hot, a hose or just the straight pipe running out of somebody's house and just turn it on.
That's it. You just turn the
You know,
hose on, drink from the hose.
stick your head under there.
That's what we did, man. That's how we grew up. All right. Yeah, the village. Yeah, 60s and that. The village in New York. It's not the village no more. You know that, Billy. I don't know what the fuck that's turned into. And after COVID, it's even gotten worse. Yeah, we didn't need sugar, Louis. We didn't need steroids. We had sugar. That's right. Oh my God. Let me leave you with this last one. One of my favorite things in the summertime. My boy Chad posted on Facebook today. He said, "Sign of spring." He had a picture of Mr. Softy coming down the block. Remember the goddamn ice cream truck? How you go fucking berserk when you hear that shit
Yeah,
as a kid?
man. Yeah.
And that's one of the
Yeah.
best bits that Eddie Murphy did, dead on.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
give a fuck what you were doing. I remember we be in the street playing football, stickball, whatever. It's like you had fucking radar for the ice cream truck.
Yep.
You got hold up. You just hold up like you have fucking supersonic hearing. Hold up.
You can be
Is that the
3
ice cream
blocks
truck?
away.
It's 2 blocks away. Hurry up. You go run. Your mom, the ice cream truck's downstairs. What do you want? Tell you what everybody want. Yo, Eddie Murphy hit that, and comedian, he hit that shit right on, dead on. That's exactly how we used to do it, man.
Exactly.
And you knew what everybody wanted. I want a rocket. I want this. I want. And God forbid, or if you seen him, you was on. The best would be when you were the next block over, hanging out on the next block over, and he was coming down, and then you try to just break out. I'd be cutting through somebody's yard to get to the next block over, so I could get to my house, so I could get some money, and then you'd be ready for it. It was Mr. Softy and good. I used to like the Good Humor truck. I don't know if you remember the Good Humor truck.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, man. Ice cream trucks, man. We had all that shit, man. Don't matter what you were doing as a kid. You heard that motherfucker when it was in the neighborhood, though. You heard it. Anyway, all right, look. I see there was a little bit more. I'm going to have to wrap this up. Like I say, I always try to say 2 hours. That shit never works. Anyway, yeah, Brother Angel, a.k.a. Louis, I'm going to get at you. We do have an African witchcraft and sorcery class coming up on Patreon next month, so I'm going to get with you on your schedule. Definitely want you to be there. Taja, yeah, I want to plan a May or June trip. Maybe June be better.
Okay.
I'll get with you on that.
Yeah,
No, definitely coming through, man. Definitely want to come out there just to chill. I ain't been to Philly in a while, man. It's been a minute since I've been out to Philly too. West 52nd Market. That whole area probably don't even look like it used to when I was out there back in the day.
Nah, everything's changed, man. Everything's
I
changed.
know,
But
I know. Some
I
not for
just
the better.
I just took my cousin, my little cousin from Boston out on we called it a cheesesteak tour. Took him around the Max's, Iskabibbles, and a couple other places so he could compare. You know, that was that was his mission coming down here. So whatever you want to do, bro. Like I told you.
Nah, we're gonna come through. We're just gonna kick it. I just want to come have some fun, man. That's all. I ain't coming to do anything else but kick it.
Cool.
All right, we'll do that. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I appreciate you guys supporting the platform, this, that, and the other. Infernal blessings. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe, and we'll talk soon. All right, we out of here.